How'd you do that?
I
Oh,
have
we're
no.
on. We talk about it. We on. To think about it. It's like, wait, I was putting this on while we were talking. Hey, good morning, good morning, good morning. What is up? If you're joining us, welcome to the Black Filmmakers Lounge, Saturday morning in the industry shop talk. Um, woo, we are hanging out, doing what it is we do. We gotta always bring in the show the way we bring in the show to get it started. So let's do what it is we do first, and then get everything else going.
Mm, 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 mm.
Uh oh, something is not
What you
happening.
got going on, brother?
I don't know. If all of a sudden it ain't playing the music. It doesn't
See, it
like
heard
me
me
today.
telling
Yeah, it doesn't like me today.
you.
We don't know what's going on with the.
I'll hum for you till you get it fixed. Mm. Mm, mm, mm. Dun, dun,
Yeah, we
dun,
just gonna do it
dun,
this
dun,
way
dun,
then.
dun, dun,
We're gonna have
dun,
to do it our
dun,
own special
dun,
way.
dun, 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 dun.
Hey, welcome to the Saturday morning in the industry shop talk with your host Michael Melvin and your co-host Jacoby Simmons. The Saturday morning in the industry shop talk is hosted by the Black Filmmakers Lounge. The Black Filmmakers Lounge, where independent filmmakers, where novelists or professionals come together to gain insight, perspective through education, information, networking, and to discuss industry best practices that will advance the Black interdependent film community. And once again, we are your hosts, as we should be. I don't know what technical difficulties we are having today, but we're having some. Something doesn't want us to do what it is that we do when we do what we do. So, we do have a special guest coming on today, but he's trying to get in, working on some technical difficulties. But we just do what it is we're doing. Oh, that could be the problem. I figured out the problem. Now I figured out the problem. But we're hanging out today. It's a wonderful Saturday morning. If you're joining us on YouTube, uh, Facebook, and then if you're joining us afterwards on our Black Filmmakers Lounge website, as well as we will be streaming video and audio podcasts. You have a choice: YouTube or Spotify, and hopefully you'll move over as well to Apple um, too. So we're getting back into the swing of things for this new season that we're coming into, and we're doing it what it is we do. So if you're joining us, we appreciate you coming on. Let us know that you're here. Um, that's the beauty of coming on live is you get to participate, ask questions, engage, and be a part of the stuff. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. And oops, something went wrong there. Let's fix that. Boom. There we go. We got Dr. Thaddeus Jones hanging out with us. Let's get him on camera. And bam. What is up, brother? Uh-oh, audio. Why does it say guest is in green room? Check your audio for me. Because I did assign you. And if you got to go out to come back in, that just have your stuff hooked up already, audio wise. Are you on a computer? Check your computer audio because that's usually where the problem is. You got to plug in everything before you log into Ecamm. So yeah, we're on Ecamm, ladies and gentlemen. But Yeah, have your mic, your headphones, everything jacked in before you log in through Ecamm. It usually picks it up right away. Um, let's try this again. Yeah, it says you're in a green room, and I don't know why. You want to try going out, coming back in? All right. So we gotta go back to the wonderful two shot real quick. What's up, Jacoby? How you doing, man? Technical difficulties first thing in the morning.
That's how I mean that's life, man. We always have those kind of things, and that's why we work it out though. That's part of being a black filmmaker, right? Especially
Yeah,
in the beginning when you're getting started and being able to pivot and stay focused on the goal.
it still says he's in the green room. I don't know why.
Mike, you the tech guy.
Nah, that's why I get on early. Yeah, I gotta mess with y'all now. Y'all want to
Yeah,
start messing with me. There's a
that's me.
reason I
That's
log
me.
on early in the morning.
Don't 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 take it at don't take it
Did it
don't
take
take
it
it
out?
out on Dr.
Don't take it on
Jones.
Dr. Jones. Don't take it out on
Yeah,
Dr. Jones.
it's only me. And I'm never gonna call him Thaddeus. I'm always call him Doctor because he worked too
Doctor.
hard to get that DR.
So Doc, let's. Are you using Safari? You're using Chrome. You got to use Safari or Chrome. Hey, you got your phone? Use your phone. Just tap on the link on the phone. You're just gonna have to set it on a stand. Come on,
It's
you
all
Apple
good.
users gotta. Yo, it's one of the early morning things. It's a good thing it's only 10:08, and you guys have seen the technical difficulties that we go through on a set.
Yeah.
Murphy's Law, man. Whatever can go wrong can go wrong.
Yep.
And we're gonna be talking about producing today anyway. Hold on. Dr. Thaddeus, are you there?
I'm here.
There you go. We got you. Don't worry about the phone then. We got you.
Okay. All right.
All right. You know what? I figured out the problem. I'll fix it. I got it. I can fix
Okay.
the problems now. Yeah. Let these guys so the problem is my fault. I'm gonna say that. I'm gonna let it be my fault today. It's just my fault. It's all me. What's up, brother? How you doing?
What's going on, man? How y'all?
I'm beautiful, Doc.
I'm blessed, man. Why is it
Good.
three bald men with glasses on and beard? Yo, dude.
It all come together.
I know. Hey, that's age and wisdom.
Yeah.
That's it.
And we all got gray hair, right?
That's it.
I'm gonna shave my beard off. I look about 25 without my beard.
I got the baby face without the beard. Yeah.
My wife said never. She
She
not
might,
doing you.
she like rubbing it.
She likes the. Yeah, she's like it's nice and soft. It's
Oh shit. Yeah,
she
Mike, you
like
condition your beard, huh?
yeah.
Look,
Oh, yeah,
Mike
I
get in
clean
there
it,
with beard butter, beard balm, beard oil, stubble guard. Right?
Hey, you got it. Hey, cleanse, take care of the face. Shining. Look, I have no varying wrinkles. I don't stress out.
Oh shucks.
You know,
You get facials and stuff.
nah, I don't do all that.
Uh,
I do the simple wash and scrub and go on about my business.
all right.
All about your day.
There's only two things I use that I probably shouldn't. Well, one of them I probably should use is alcohol. But I've been doing it since I was a kid. And people's like, oh, it gives you wrinkles early. I'm like, I haven't wrinkled yet. And then
Black,
What
smoke it.
what people told you that?
different people I know were like, you put alcohol in your face, it takes out the oils and everything. I'm like,
Yeah, that's
I
why
just
you got
haven't had
lotion
That's
and
why you use alcohol.
So
Yeah,
I
you
was
put
like,
moisturizer
well,
on it. Yeah.
I haven't had that problem. I put stuff on my beard and everything. And
Look at you.
I just, what else? Um, I use like the scrub to get the dead skin off, and that's it. And I wash my face.
Jesus
Like,
Christ.
they're like, hey, well,
And
there's
some
nothing
people
else I
don't
can
wash
do.
their face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the problem.
That's the problem.
That's the problem. Like, yeah, I got wrinkles. I mean, I don't know about that. I also don't drink a lot, smoke a lot. I don't smoke at all, but I don't really drink. So
Yeah, that leaves me out.
Hey, I drink. I don't smoke anymore. So
Yeah, everybody's different. We're at a different place, but we don't look the old. And I'll be 50 in about less than 6 months.
okay,
So
I'm
only
not
thing
there
I
yet.
got is
I
gray
got
hair.
4 years before I get to the 50.
Well,
Yeah.
you know what? We have gray hair because we're educators.
And I'll tell you, being an educator and having children, yes. I had a head full of dreads before I had children.
Uh, well,
And
y'all
real,
was lucky. My
Why?
my dad was bald before he was 30. He had the George Jefferson joint, and it rubbed off. I ain't cut my hair since I was 35.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and you know what's bad about that? Because
What?
I grew up in the age when black men at 18, 19, 20 had bald heads and it was cool. You know, you had Tupac, you
mm,
had Onyx.
Mm.
Yeah, I was rocking the baldy. I had a fresh baldy.
yeah.
You got a couple players in college, joint ski ball. But now I'm mad as hell. I probably erased my hairline doing that. Now I'm mad.
Mm.
Can't go back.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
But I don't hair, no hair. It shouldn't even matter, man. It is what it
Okay.
is.
You
There's
keep
women who
that to
like men with
yourself.
bald heads. There are women who don't.
Hey, I would
So
like to see my hairline again. So you keep that part to yourself.
As
there's drops you can put on your
as
chin.
long as my wife love it, we good to go.
That's
Ain't
where
got
I'm
no.
at.
I
That's
hear
where
that.
I'm at. That's where I'm at. That right there. That is exactly how I feel. All right, let's do this, gentlemen. I know
Yes,
we warming
sir.
up. We getting together as always. Today's show, we're gonna be talking about producing with Dr. Jones. I don't know why I have the mistake here, but bam, let me fix that. Dr. Jones was TK for a moment. Didn't even recognize him. We were so in conversation. I was like, today is the
Mhm.
day of technical difficulties. Welcome
Hey,
to
man, it
producing.
happened. That's it.
No, but that's what you get producing. You run into the difficulties, the issues. You got to plan for the problems. You got to fix the problems. You got to be prepared for it. Before we get
Yep.
started in producing, real quick, what did y'all watch this week?
Ooh, I was prepared and then I wasn't. I watched some old stuff. I watched what's the oldest Saw X.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
I watched Tarot. I watched catching up on Snowfall because I haven't finished Snowfall.
I haven't either.
Um, what else? It's been a busy. I watched a couple Tubi movies from some folks that I know. So I watched
Okay.
a movie called Three Secrets. Young actress that I know that was in that. She did a good job, and yeah, I think that's about it.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Cool. Thank
I
you for
haven't
sharing
watched Snowfall yet at all.
at
No, I should
all.
say I got to the episode where he brutally raped the guy in the bedroom,
Oh, wow.
and then I was
Oh,
like,
that's
I'm
first.
good. Yeah, the
Yep.
first season, I was like, I'm
Okay.
good. That was a little graphic for me. So I never
That
really
was.
got into Snowfall like everybody else.
Got you.
I came late. I didn't watch when it was on the original run.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we all of the age where we kind of grew up in that era.
Mm-hmm.
I don't when I was watching, I was like, oh man, this remind me of people I know and things that I've been through, and so I stayed away from it for a long time. And then on the back end, of course, the spoilers came out of how the series ended, and I was
Mm-hmm.
like, God, dang it! So it's all about the journey, right? As a storyteller,
Mm-hmm.
it, I was like, okay, now I kind of want to know how we end up here, and
Oh,
so I started watching it.
yeah.
Mhm.
Not me. Mm-mm.
Did you watch Shogun?
uh,
No, I haven't yet.
I started it. I didn't see the last episode.
I
Did
won't. Good.
Yeah, don't spoil it
any,
for me. I
anybody watch Warriors?
Warriors. Talk about the
Boy,
movie.
Yeah, there's a new Warriors that talks about the Chinese coming to San Francisco,
Oh,
and
oh,
it's
then
that's
the
the
Bruce
Bruce
Lee
Lee,
joint.
Warrior. That's
That's
the
written
Bruce
by
Lee
Bruce
thing.
Lee. Yeah, yeah. I've
Yeah.
seen. Yeah, yeah.
is it?
No,
I don't know. Nah, I don't think so because it's earlier than that.
No, no, no.
no,
Bruce Lee
it's
wrote it.
supposed to be
He had
about
wrote
Bruce
it.
Lee.
Yeah, he had wrote it originally, and his
Yeah.
daughter's producing it. And so,
Matter of fact, I'm
yeah,
writing
because
it
they're
down
into
now.
season
I'll put
three.
it on.
Okay, because I watched the first season. I haven't really watched the second one yet, but it was really really good.
Okay.
It was really good. I liked
Okay.
it. Before I tell you what I watched, because Michael already watched it, because I only watched it because he said so. Um, it was interesting, and it was really like it's things that we understood was happening,
Hmm.
right? But the same thing that happened to the Chinese was after those same things were happening to black. So if you talk about the Tulsa, Oklahoma, you
Hmm.
talk
Mm,
about South Philly riots like have you ever been to Philadelphia?
Hmm.
yeah.
You ever been to South Philly? South Street?
No.
Okay, South Street now is like a commercial district, but it was right down the bottom by the water where all the black people lived at one time, right? But the Irish uh, ran down there and had a real bad riot over a fight over jobs, right? And you hear this consistent theme all over the country, right? Irish come in who always claim how they were treated poorly,
Hmm.
Right.
and then they take advantage of the immigrants until they can get in and sit in, and then they're accepted as Anglo-Saxon, right?
Right.
So it's a similar story. It's just told from how it happened with them,
Okay.
which is deep. That's why I said I wasn't sure because I wasn't sure when Bruce Lee came over, but uh, it's really deep because it's set in the early 1800s, like right before the railroad or right during the railroad.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's
That's a lot of. There's a lot of history there, especially when you talk about coastal, because in California had
mhm.
uh, the same issues where they used the immigrant and the Chinese and Asians to build out the railroad, and then it was like, yeah, so we don't need you anymore. Let's get these camps going. Let's get
Right.
figure out how to get y'all up out of here.
Yeah. Well, what you saw there was after they built their own towns, right? They had the Irish who had moved from the East Coast to the
Hmm.
West Coast for jobs,
Yep.
and then they were lowering the wage as the immigrants came in. So they might have been paying the Irish $5 an hour. They start paying the immigrants $2 an hour. So now the
Mm-hmm.
Irish are losing jobs. They're mad at the immigrants. Same stuff we're talking about now, taking
Talk about
jobs,
now. Ain't nothing changed.
Right.
right? While the English, because that's who they were at the time, the English were the money makers. They were the aristocracy at the time.
Right. The
But
financiers.
yeah, the oligarchy. There we go. That's the word I was looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And so they show how they pit them against each other until they use the unions, right, to gain power politically.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like
All this stuff
Tammany Hall, right, in New
together, man.
York.
I
Oh
like
yeah.
I like shows like that give more historical accuracy in fiction, but
Mhm.
because it makes those connections that if you're not having the conversation which we could all sit down and have about other cultures, how America has treated people of color, whether black, Asian, Hispanic, whatever, how America has truly done us. And then that's why I kind of like I hate that term critical race theory, right? Because it's not a theory; it's historical facts. It's what's
Facts.
actually happened. Um, a theory is something you have to prove. You don't have to prove that. There's enough people to tell
Well,
you it
see,
happened.
what? Hold up. So, and I apologize to interrupt, but the
Nah, go ahead.
reason the reason it's a theory is what people are talking about. Like people talk about stuff that isn't really critical race theory because they're talking about history,
Right.
right? Critical race theory states that it's hard to separate poverty from racism because race has been black people have been subjugated to the lower levels of poverty. So when you look at statistics like police brutality, right?
Mm-hmm.
People who get brutalized by the police probably make less than $75,000 a year, white or black,
Right. Got you.
Right.
right? But you can't. It's not necessary. Now, how do we separate race from it, too? Right? Because it has a racial component, depending on what parts. Or when you talk about laws that attack the poor, who are they targeted to? Is it just the poor, or is it race? So now, when you make laws and policies and all these things, how is race when you talk about the poor? So, like a lot of stuff, that's why you can have like black people and white people in West Virginia talk about how they're poor and they work hard, but their situations are different, right?
Right.
Right.
Or
And it's
the
because
access is different.
as the public, we still focus on race when
Mm-hmm.
it's really more like caste or social economic
Yeah.
issues. And the biggest thing, and this is what they put in place, is that they pit poor white Caucasian folks against poor minorities, or whatever term you want to use,
Mm-hmm.
people of color, right? And so they say, well, at least you're not black, or at least you're not Mexican, at least you're
Right.
not Asian. And and we're still having, amongst us in this lower middle class area, we're still having that conversation of, well, it's about race, and it's really, it's yes, to a certain extent race plays a part in policies and how things are enforced, but it's really about the money.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Right.
the more we understand at this level that it's really about money and policy and how that is influenced by race, then we can start to have a, because the race comes in because nobody is at the table for us influencing the policies. And so as those policies get made, they're made in a vacuum. And the whole saying is like, when America gets sick, black people get pneumonia, right? And so it's because of that same kind of thing. There's nobody there uh, to help address the gaps in policies that we're seeing when you make a policy in a vacuum and you don't understand how this is going to affect. And I see this in just regular companies, regular businesses, especially movie theaters and
I was
film.
about to
We
say,
see it
we
all the
could
time.
pivot that a little
Yeah,
bit into us producing films, right?
absolutely.
Because we're always talking about the black film genre. People are like, well, black films are not a genre. You have one set of people that it's not a genre. We're just black filmmakers making films that anybody could really enjoy. The reason we put black in front of it is because for a long time, and even up until now, we're not considered as viable, or we're exploited, not overly, we're just exploited.
Mm-hmm.
We get the less budget. The first saying I've always heard is, we don't sell overseas, which has to be totally impossible
A lot,
because you
flat
have a
out lot.
whole, yeah, you have a whole Nollywood and Bollywood and Azollywood, all these things coming, and that's been there and that has flourished to improve their industries, and that's international. So what is Black America's problem with the industry and producing? So we had to greenlight ourselves,
Yeah.
and
That's the
It,
problem. We don't have access to the financing traditionally.
mm-hmm.
And so and they don't. When I say they, I'm talking about financiers, people that want a return on investment. They don't understand how to market our movies. And so if you don't understand the business side of it, you can't see how you're going to make your money back. And now, and this is the same thing that we're running into, um, with convincing people to put up money for a film because they don't understand how they're going to see their money back.
mm-hmm.
And even more so now that DVD sales are becoming a thing of the past, where you could spend a 5 million and count on DVD sales, those
Mm-hmm.
ancillary sales on the back end to make up the rest of what you need to break even or to make a profit. Now you're not seeing that, but they're not also not pivoting into the streaming aspects to cut deals that are lucrative enough because their budgets are so bloated, which is
Right.
why we're doing so well. People that and I say we're filmmakers that understand this industry is pivoting and changing are doing well on streaming because they are brokering deals that include making money from streaming, but they are branching out other ways to continue to make that ancillary market money, and not necessarily with merchandise. Like I mean, there's rare you see the T-shirts and things of that nature, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking about appearances. I'm talking about Q&As. I'm talking about actual live in person shows. We're kind of going backwards where we were at this circuit stage, right? Where
Right.
we are back as black filmmakers in a chitlin circuit, so to speak, of going to mom and pops, figuring out how to four wall so that we can keep the lion's share of the money. We're
Mm-hmm.
still up on Tubi in areas that we can't necessarily travel to. And I guarantee you in the next, I would say in the next 5 years, this industry is going to have to come and change how theatrical experiences happen because that's why they're losing money. And as a producer, you should be on the forefront of that, especially as a black producer. We should be creating experiences.
Right.
Um,
And I think that's what some of those. That's why Netflix is starting to purchase movie theaters, and some of these other big places are purchasing the movie theaters, so they maintain the stream and can control all of those things around it, and the merchandising and all the other stuff. But the one thing I wanted to lay in there, I think us is as we're learning today, right? The term black is not a monolith, right? And it
Mm-hmm.
also has a stigma on it of what it is. And a lot of people have been, what is the word I'm looking for? Trauma pimping, right?
Right.
right.
And they have placed a lot of our stuff in a box, or a lot of people continue to put our stuff in a box. There's a lot of independent filmmakers. And so when we look at our diversity and we continue, like, as much as I don't enjoy Tyler Perry's movies technically, I respect him as a filmmaker because he's done the thing that you're told as a filmmaker, right? Find your niche, build
Mm-hmm.
your fan base, and create. And they will find you once you build your fan base. A lot of our filmmakers are all pulling from the same fan base, right? As we were talking about, there's Snowfall, right? Snowfall is the child of Ricky and Boys in the Hood and all that
Mm-hmm.
stream. But everybody
John
seen,
Singleton.
yeah, and everybody fell in love with those kind of movies. And they say it's almost like rap music. Like I'm telling you what's really going on. But like how many stories? Even when you look at The Shy and all those other things, it has small little nuances in them, but they're all kind of telling the same story. When there's like we'll sit back, like as we sit here, there's all black men on this thing, but
Mm-hmm.
all our experiences growing up are vastly different. I grew up with my mom in the projects. Mike, you grew up with your mom and your dad.
Mm-hmm.
uh Dr. Jones, I'm not sure, but it was
I'm
in
in
the
the rural with my mom. I had the best of both worlds. So I had a couple years with my pops on the Air Force Base, and then grew up in a rural South Carolina part of the South where you know the experiences are vastly different and unique. But I will tell you that the stories aren't that different, and
yeah,
that's the key. It's
Right.
how we present those stories, though.
but
That
most of them are presented very similar. That's the
Yes,
point.
Well.
because they saw a model that worked,
Uh
and
huh.
everybody goes, "Well, let's tell that story." But so like we could do a Black Goonies, which is one of my favorite kids films of all times. But would the audience relate to that? Yes. Would somebody get behind it to fund it? No, because their experiences, right? It
Hmm.
would have to. Their experiences tell them that black children don't do this kind of thing,
But
right?
that's
It has,
but that's also the point I'm getting at, right?
yeah.
They you if you're sitting in a like so if you're sitting in a place where you're not
Mm-hmm.
even engaged with a group and all the content, music, all that other stuff comes out one way, how could you believe that there's something different unless you had some proximity to it or somebody
Well,
to tell you?
yeah, because I know me growing up, um, people were like, "There's no such thing as the Cosby Show." Like the Cosby Show is fake to them, and we were like, "What? What are you talking about?" Like we grew up in a household. There's five of us. We got mom and dad. My mom worked. My dad worked. Both of them worked for the government. My dad was in the military. So Thaddeus and I have that when we are as military brats. We've been on military bases. Went to military schools are a little bit different than regular schools, but I still end up going to public. I had the best. I went to a military school growing up. I went to private school and public school.
You've been all.
Yeah, I mean, I got the taste of it. I know what it's like not to have your dad around because a good portion of my growing up from elementary school, when I moved to the United States, my dad left because my mom told him she didn't want to keep moving us when he got stationed. So he just went, so I know what it's like not to have dad around for years. He comes and visit for like 2 weeks or a week, or it comes in a weekend every couple months because he's in a whole nother country, a whole nother state, whichever. Like there was a time my dad was in Alaska. We didn't even go to Alaska. Mom went to visit dad. You know what I mean?
But you got to see, to some people, that's still a luxury.
Right. I mean, right? Yeah, everybody, your thought process, but to me, that made me not want to go in the military because my dad was always gone. I didn't get to spend time with my dad until middle school.
But the original point you were making, and that validates, is that proximity to these experiences allowed you to understand those experiences and connect. You know what I'm saying?
This is the reason why we should be producing a various, array of stories, and not pigeonholing ourselves into the one. Like, when I started becoming a filmmaker, everybody wanted to make the Menace to Society. Everybody wanted to make the Boys in the Hood, and we were living in that realm, but it was what was seen as successful. Here I come saying, listen, let's make a horror movie. They're looking at me like, what? Like it was unheard of. Black people don't last in horror movies. We don't end up in those situations
until you get Tales from the Hood.
Until you get a Tales from the Hood and you make it relatable to your circumstances. And as filmmakers and producers, that's what I strive to do. I strive to find work that tells stories from a similar experience in a different point of view. So when we do a comedy that's similar to Friday, we change it up. When we do a drama that's similar to Boys in the Hoods, Boys in the Hood, we got to change it up to flip that perspective, because we've already seen John Singleton's perspective. We need to see it from a different perspective so that other people can recognize themselves in it. And I think that's the biggest thing as a producer, that is kind of falling behind and falling by the wayside a lot of times, is that as producers, we are not fostering new things. And we're kind of going from that model of cookie cutter. Well, this worked for such and such. I even heard someone tell me like, well, Friday did it this way, so we're going to do it this way. And I'm like, well, you're not Friday. And that audience, you don't want to give them the same thing. I just remembered something else I saw. I'm sorry, my mind is just all over the place. I saw Trap, M. Night Shyamalan's Trap.
Okay, I haven't seen Trap yet. I just watched Old yesterday, actually.
I don't watch M. Night Shyamalan too much since the last. What was that movie in the park? The horror movie.
The trees, about the trees, The Happening.
Yeah, no, was that it? When they were in Philly, but he was.
Oh, you talking about The Village?
Yes. After that, it kind of turned me off.
From The Village was terrible.
So I'm not gonna. But let me throw this in, because you're saying something. What I find, and this is just me as an educator, as a filmmaker, people. When I talk to my students, they tell me a film, and I'm like, I've seen that already. Right. And I'm like, give me something I haven't seen before, and tell me your story, because here's they'll come. Oh, it's a basketball player. Their mom is on drugs, and they got to make it out the hood, and they get good at basketball to make it. I said, yeah, the mom's on. Why is mom on drugs? I said, is your mom on drugs? No. I said, then why do you want to tell that story? right? Why do we want to tell the constant negative image? It's like marriage, right? I did a movie about divorce. Had nothing to do with anybody cheating. It's just they started parting their own ways because
Mm.
one wanted to pursue dreams, the other one wanted to be practical and was like, "Hey, we got kids, da da da," and they started going in their own direction. See, and that's the thing. It doesn't have to be. It can still be a similar story. Divorce happens, but
Right.
you don't have to. No one has to cheat. Now you can
Right.
still have the cheating
The
aspect.
situation can be based off of something that's familiar, but the
Mm-hmm.
story should be something that's new and fresh and original that gives kind of people a different perspective. And I think that that's what we're missing because, we watch a lot of movies. It's the same movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's exactly the
It's
same
always the
movie.
wrapping
And
paper.
it's, you know,
But that's
so
that's the part for me when I talk about like these stories and starting to tell them right.
Mm-hmm.
When your experiences sometimes are limited in what is uh money making. So if we sit back and talk about filmmakers, right? We are really behind in filmmaking as far as also we are behind in our freedom of thought, right? And being able to experience this idea of filmmaking, right? And so as our filmmakers, original filmmakers, um, Oscar Michaud, uh, they have been some of the elite because you needed money to get equipment. So they've been
Mm-hmm.
part of the black bourgeoisie,
Right.
right? And so as we become elevated, we are starting to become part of the black bourgeoisie to some extent. We have to understand some of these filmmakers that are coming out, especially these new ones, aren't as exposed, or they're just creative and they're exploring their creativity through what they know and what they see, right? And as we sit down, that's where sometimes when I um, hear these kind of conversations, at times I try to remember being that guy that picked up a camera. And I was different. I like comedy, so we made my first film I worked on and participated and helped produce was called The Negro Zone, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it was about my black experience being um, graduated from college, but going in a building and a lady clutching her purse, right? But it was a comedy, or being in a thing where they look at you like you're the sexy black beast, right? And you're in a board meeting and you can see the energy, or being a guy just walking down the street and you get thought of as a criminal because you're walking in a nice neighborhood. But we turned that into a comedy,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so at times people just want to make a movie that they're close to. And a lot of times people have related that all the black experiences, and a lot of those creative filmmakers come from these areas, and now they're coming without any mentorship, any support, or any of those things. And then you'll have a filmmaker like Lee Daniels to make Monsters Ball.
well, I will to go back to what you were saying about Michaud and some of these other folks. They didn't have mentorship all the time either. They were doing this by the seat of their pants. And I know there's filmmakers that sold books to fund their films. I think Michaud was one of them.
Yeah,
Um,
but the difference I'm saying is like now filmmaking has been democratized, right? You can use it on the phone. Everybody has a phone. At the
mm,
time, Michelle, you had to be a different kind of person to be able to
I think
have the equipment.
so.
I
What you're
think you
talking
still
about
have
is like
to.
the ease of access now has created a class of filmmaker that is just not as into the craft, so to speak, but they're by proximity. They feel, and this is what I will honestly say that you're hitting on something here that kind of rubs a nerve for me, is that people think that filmmaking is easy. They don't focus on the craft, the art of storytelling, speaking through the lens. They know nothing about these things, and we have allowed this to happen in a way that is just like anybody can make a movie.
But that's not
And
true.
No, no,
I
hold up. I would digress. There's an adjective you need to put in there, right? Anybody
okay,
can make a movie, but anybody can't make a good movie.
good movie,
No,
yes.
anybody can't make a movie because everybody won't make a movie. Let me give you this. Photography there's been cameras on the market for everybody's use before even cell phones. You could go buy everybody could buy a camera. We had access to it, right? but everybody wasn't a photographer. There's a certain skill set that comes with being a photographer. Now, we knew the difference between if you took photos for your family than if you went and got portraits done.
See, that's the
That was
thing.
a
Those
difference.
lines are being blurred now. These people think that because I can buy a camera, I'm a filmmaker. Because I can buy a DSLR, I am now a photographer, and they think that they can go out and take pictures and get paid. I literally have people, students that have never held a camera in their life, come to class and immediately want to jump to, yeah, I want to make $500-$600 a day doing this. You don't know how to shoot out of auto, but you want somebody to pay you $500-$600 a shoot. It's because social media has said, "Hey, this is easy," and it's not easy.
So where
Access, you have access, but you don't necessarily have the skill set.
See, and that's, but see, here's the thing that we get caught up in. I'm gonna come back. I gotta make sure I remember because I go off too. My mind be all over the place. But what I say is, well, I feel that's our personal emotions getting into the middle of it. When you say whether, see, because I like a photographer. If we look at the definition, right? Like people get into the argument about cinematographer, videographer, right? People get into I'm a photographer. He takes pictures, right? Here's the key, right? The person is the difference, not always the equipment, right? And we understand this.
Right.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean the person isn't a photographer. They just ain't good or as good as me. Once you start taking pictures, I look at you as if you're a photographer. Now,
That's not true.
That's
Well,
my
no,
opinion.
you can. Here's the thing.
Right.
There's a
Hold on,
photographer, and then there's a
finish.
professional.
Let me finish. But that's the part that's the point that I'm making, right?
Mhm.
And so and I would like to say before social media, there are people, especially in our community, who want cheap stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and if they can see it, it's a good enough picture, right? and I'm not paying. I can't tell the difference between what Jacoby does and what Dr. Jones does and what Michael Melvin and my son does, right? And so I'm gonna just pay my son $50 and he's gonna do the whole event.
Mm-hmm.
Great,
I'm cool
do
with
that.
it. And
But that's the thing. As an artist, you have to know your value and what you are bringing to it. And a lot of times, people don't know they want something until you actually show them what the differences are.
yeah, I
Right? And
agree.
so
But here's the other part: people don't know what they don't know until they don't know it.
Well, until it's shown to
You know
them.
what I mean?
Yeah.
it was shown to
Nah,
them. Yeah.
I'm talking about like you talking about the camera person, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm one of
Mhm.
those guys that say, "Oh, I want to make a movie. I want to produce a film." Man, that first time I did it, I had no clue of all the things I had to do. And as I'm growing as a cinematographer, videographer, I'm learning
Mhm.
more and more. Like now I understand why shooting in manual, because I cover sports a lot, is important.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean manual focus. Can you imagine how hard it is to shoot sports manual focus?
Oh
But
yeah.
but you know what I'm competing with? People shooting on autofocus,
Yeah.
right?
You know what's
Am
going
I
to
going
make the difference? You know what's going to make the difference between someone who shoots in auto and someone who shoots in manual?
to? Mm-hmm.
It's all the
Go
other
ahead.
thing. It's the composition. It's how you look at it. It's the angles that you choose, and all of those things are the things that separate you from being someone that takes pictures to being a photographer,
Yeah,
And
but
that was
or
my argument
cinematographer.
with AI,
but
actually.
the people who starting to care, the photographers who care will
Mm-hmm.
grow once they start to see, because they're going to compare their stuff to other people's stuff. So I
Yep.
have to allow those beginners to be photographers in my mind, because the good ones, the ones who are really caught up in the excitement of it and really love it, will grow. The ones who are there to just make a buck, they'll do enough to just make a buck, and there's a lane for them. They can go
Mm-hmm.
shoot parties at a club, right? They can make money off of sports for 5 year olds. They can do all those things because parents are paid. That's
Yeah.
not, so people call me, ask me for weddings, right? No disrespect to wedding photographers, because some of them jokers can tell a story, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to do that.
There you go.
Right?
But
So the lane for some of those other people, like we can sit here and talk about Tubi, right? And there's a market for Tubi, but the
actually,
filmmakers who
we're going to
continue
talk
to
about
grow
Tubi.
are going to find their own. But the ones who start off with the horrible, if they continue to grow, they'll find their own lane and grow and get into the business at different
Well,
levels. The
yeah,
ones who
absolutely.
won't will quit.
But
The
when I
ones
got
who
Absolutely,
won't,
into
and
this,
I totally agree with you. I think we are saying the same things. We're agreeing. It's just we're saying it differently, right? I think that there needs to be room for people to enter the profession and feel welcome and wanted, and like they can go and learn and grow. What I have a issue with are those folks that will not. And though some of those folks don't even want to stay in their lane, they are all over the place, bringing the value down for everybody else, right? And so then we are fighting for the outsiders that say, "Well, you make this kind of movie." They equate us as being the same, and then there has to be a delineation, right? We have to let the work show why this is not this, and that part takes someone willing to see that. You can go on Tubi right now and find movies that you'd be like, "Damn, that's a Tubi movie." Wow. But because Tubi has gotten this stigma,
I
when you
hate the
see it, you're gonna
term.
be like,
I hate the term
well,
Tubi movie.
I do hate the term Tubi movie.
I
Uh,
because we don't. Here's the thing, and I get it. When a new platform comes or something comes, we make connections with it. Oh, that's a Tubi movie. Oh, that's a Netflix film. Because we make Netflix was the hierarchy of platform
well, you
for a
equated
while.
to quality.
Yeah, and then that's an Amazon movie, and then but distribution's distribution. Whether you get it on Tubi, Netflix, Amazon, Crackle, Pluto, it is what Peacock,
Wherever you
distribution.
get the bag, that's
yeah,
distribution.
I agree with you, but we're all talking from a high level. You got these people who seen all these horrible movies on Tubi.
But these are filmmakers that mostly have the most comments. Like when I see comments
Yeah.
about a Tubi movie, it's in film groups, and then it spreads from the film
Because
group outside.
because what happens is branding in themselves, right? So if I'm on a platform and it's known to have these horrible movies on it, why would I? Now I'm talking about
I'm
the
about to say
rational
Amazon
thought.
did it.
I'm,
Netflix did it too. I don't
we
know
all
anybody who didn't have B, C, D level movies
They
on the
build the whole
HBO had it.
platform. They
Showtime
build
had
it
it.
up.
hold up. Wait. I'm gonna tell you this right now, and I'm gonna disagree with you on this one. There is no way in God's green earth that some of those movies on Tubi would make it on Netflix.
That's not true.
Netflix starting
That's how they
out.
built themselves
That's
up.
how they built the whole thing.
Netflix didn't. Remember, Netflix, I don't know if I'm older than y'all or something, but remember, Netflix started because they sent the movies that you better buy
Right,
the
we know,
DVDs.
but to
They had
build the
these- but they
actual.
had
But
these
here's the
movies that
thing:
they were sending.
you have to have.
B
Hold
movies,
on.
some of these movies is Z movies. Let's keep that.
But
let's be honest. Let's be honest.
All right,
now.
no, but here's what I'm saying:
So some of these movies
the
on
low
Tubi would
quality
not make it.
movies is nothing different, nothing new. That
I'm
was
gonna
on
ask you a question.
HBO when I was a kid. We saw
Hold-
D,
Wait,
C, B level
wait.
movies.
No, I'm gonna look at both of you men. We got to have a same. No, because to have an argument, right? To have an agreement, we need to have the same basis of truth,
Okay.
right? So you're telling me that some of these the Z movies that are on Tubi, would have been on Netflix and Amazon?
Amazon,
Starting out,
yes, definitely Amazon. I wouldn't say totally
disagree, and I'll
Z
leave it
level
there.
would be
I
on
wouldn't
Netflix,
say.
but
I wouldn't say
I would
he's
say
screaming.
anything from D up would be on a Netflix or anything else
That's
because
my point, though. Because even
how
if I'm a Z movie,
HBO. Here's what I'm saying: how HBO, Showtime, all of them built their platform. Blockbuster movies were a rarity. Like you'd maybe get one or two a month. You still had to have enough content. Remember, there was a time when you watch HBO and Showtime and it cut off by midnight.
But know what you're doing? You're comparing McDonald's French fries in the 80s to McDonald's French fries in 2020.
No, what I'm not comparing. What I'm saying is structure of business is structure of business. That is why I always go. No, this is what I'm saying. That is why I always go back to, if you don't understand the basic structure of how a company or business runs, the models have yet to really change.
Right.
What I'm
You
saying,
know,
but what
and
I'm
that's the
saying to you, I'm
thing.
not disagreeing. What I'm saying to you though is one perception, and that's why I prefaced this beginning. We're having a high level conversation, right?
Hmm.
If I'm a filmmaker, and some of these filmmakers who say they're filmmakers make films, but they're not into the business, you know, and don't understand those
Yeah.
things. I was there.
Hmm.
Like, and that's why maybe I didn't come in. I didn't go to film school initially. You know, I started getting into it because I got my first mini DV camcorder, Sony one with the first set of HD tapes you could buy. Right when you had to sit down, I didn't have like you, Mike. I didn't start off with the tape deck that you had to cut and tape together. I didn't start off like that. I had the DV that you had to sit. If it said 60-minute tape, you had to let it encode for 60 minutes,
Right.
right? And then I started with Final Cut Pro 1. So when you get in, and what I'm saying is these people that have made a film don't understand the business. That's why they're stuck in certain levels or have these things or complain or not make movies. And so when I'm sitting here and I made, like, I got a movie on Tubi, you don't hear me talking about it much because I'll tell you about that in a minute. But when you sit back and you say, well, my movie is, I would say my movie might even be E. I don't want
Right.
it next to a Z movie though,
But you
right?
know what?
Because
You're gonna be there because it's about quantity for
I'm not
platforms.
saying you're wrong, Mike. I'm telling you perception when
Hmm.
people are making movies and don't understand the process. Because the key, like you said, is distribution. A lot of people don't know distribution because they're getting into it for the art. They want to tell their stories. Because the reason I say that things are different now, right, is because, like you said, blockbusters were rare, but not as many people were making films, right? Not as many people were creating content, not as many
Okay.
people, and so we still have this group that you can't sit there and
Let
say
me ask you a
in the
question.
'80s this
When
is
were you first
what
exposed to black independent films?
in 2003. I told you I didn't
No,
even
me
know
having
about them
no,
until
no,
my
no. I'm talking
hold on,
about not making them, watching them, having access to looking at them.
in 2003. That's when I knew.
You ain't go
I
to
didn't watch it black.
Blockbuster. You ain't go to Arrows. You ain't got to,
Yeah,
dude. They had a whole
see, this what
section
I'm.
for us.
Hold up. This is the part where I'm telling you about exposure and proximity. I've
Okay.
been to Blockbuster, but who in the world in my family was telling me to look at black independent films? Nobody.
But nobody told
I
me. I
lived
just walked over to this section and saw that might be interesting and picked it
in,
off the
I didn't do
shelf.
that. But you see how,
Okay.
like, you're talking about this level of
But
serendipity,
but
right?
hold
And you
on.
holding people to a standard. I don't
Have
think
you
that's
ever
fair.
watched did you ever watch Cornbread Earl and Me? Did you ever watch
No.
Badass? Did you ever watch
Yeah,
Coffee?
but
Did
I
you ever
didn't
watch
know.
Dodomite? Did you ever watch, because these are independent black films.
Yeah, but no, but people had to tell you that when you catch it on TV, it's just like any other thing, and then it's black exploitation. So
So
you get.
so
Go
we
ahead.
what made it bigger was the fact that it was on television. What made it
Right.
more higher level was the fact that we are now making the connection to where it's being placed, and we go, yo, in our minds that was a big movie. It was well known because it was on television, right?
Mhm.
And I remember we used to have to catch Cooley High. We used to have to catch, certain movies, and but a
So do
lot
you
of
ever
black.
believe that there are no? Do you believe that there are a lot of black people, unlike you, that never experienced it until they start seeing it recently, even at
Never
close to our age?
experienced black independent films.
Yes, or don't know they experienced it because
I'm
if
about
you
to say,
don't
I
know
would
you
say
experienced it, you
probably
didn't
don't
experience it.
know. They equated the black films that they watched to mainstream, as opposed to these were once independent films that nobody wanted and they broke, through. Like a
Hmm.
mainstream film, honestly, is Shaft, right? And
Uh-huh.
The Learning Tree, because Gordon Parks was the first black film director that a studio backed,
Hmm.
Hmm.
But
right?
look, I'm gonna give you another one that people don't. Independent film. What's the scary movie with the little 8 millimeter look that we all saw? Running in the Woods.
That I knew that was an independent film.
Yeah,
Um,
I didn't.
oh yeah, but see, there's a lot of films you see. Here's the thing. So
That's
we
my
have
point.
to first define independent film.
But my point is, and I don't want to belabor this part.
Mm-hmm.
My point is that as we're sitting there talking about these films and people entering it, there's a level of people who really don't even know or have an experience. And so as we bring them along, right, is enlightening them and bringing them to that point because sometimes we alienate them right? Because they do. Like you said, I swear to goodness, Dr. Jones, I feel you because they piss me off because I can't get jobs certain places because they'll get a student that they can pay for free to go do it. And then their social media or all their other stuff looks like crap, but they happy they just got something. So I'm not saying that. But to make it, I also, what did somebody say to me? Lions don't worry about sheep. Because here's another thing, right? If that's the standard of the person that they hired, because that's what they wanted, it would have made me mad to have that job in the first place because their expectations would have been way off, and we would have probably been arguing or having a whole bunch of other disagreements, right? And so, like, I think because I want to sit because I want to talk about riders in a minute or rides in a minute,
Uh-huh.
but and how he does his thing. But we, in this space, right? We become the black bourgeoisie because we have this knowledge that a lot of people don't have access to, or have, I shouldn't say access, they have access to it, but they just don't know the
I think
information that we have.
there's some personal accountability because I hate the fact that people go, well, they just don't know. They have no interest in knowing. And so if there's no interest in knowing, you let those people go about doing and believing and thinking whatever they want to
Mm-hmm.
whatever they want to do. But that should not change us from the standards of what we're trying to accomplish. That should not change us from the standard of educating folks if they want to be educated. And
Right.
that should not stop us from calling a bad movie just because it's one of ours. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so, but I also believe that you have to give people the room to grow, and
Mm-hmm.
so being on a Tubi allows people the room to grow and express like, oh man, maybe I should have learned a little more about the business. Now let me understand. I know somebody who's like, that first deal I got and I signed with a company, I ain't gonna say their name, and I got X amount of dollars, and they tied me up for 10 years.
Yeah.
And
We
and
all
now
know what
I'm
that 10
like,
years.
oh man, I should have done a little more. But here's the other thing. You can leverage that. Leverage that. Let those people have that film and
Mm-hmm.
do what you need to do with the other film, the next film. Because guess what? As long as you continue to make films, you are winning.
I'm
Yeah.
about to say, I tell people when they ask me about like making good or bad films, I'm like, listen, everybody number one is not gonna like your stuff. And you don't ever say everybody's your audience because they're not. Just be
Nope.
honest with you. You have to understand your specific audience. Number two, your first project or a couple projects aren't going to be your best projects because as anybody who's a creative or a skilled worker, your work improves as you progress and you see your mistakes and you look to fix them and do better. So that's that mindset. Number three, organizations that I always say make a throwaway film. And what I call a throwaway film is like your first, second, or third film. Those are throwaways. You're looking to get the distribution deal. You're looking to get business leverage. You
And
put
get
them
a
out there.
name so that people know who you are and that you will work to completion of a film. This is what I teach my students. Like, dude, these first couple films, like you said, make whatever, but worry about getting that business connection. Get it up on wherever you're going to try and call the people up. You might have to spend a little extra money, so you got an actual dedicated agent. But these people are starting their careers as well, and if they know that you're serious and that you're going to continue to make films, when they get up to the next level, and they're gonna be looking for someone who can do the next thing. Hey, I just got promoted over here at Sony, and I'm looking for an independent film that we can bring in under their print. Do you have anything? Those are the
Mhm.
connections that you want to have. And people think that that just comes out of nowhere. It doesn't. You got to put in the work.
Mhm.
That's the part where, like, that's why I love this platform and talking to y'all brothers, right? Because when we sit and we have these conversations, people get a chance to learn and what they don't know. Sometimes when we have these conversations and we diverge this information, that's why sometimes I don't like to say all of them because there's two, like you said, Dr. Jones, there's two type of people. There's the ones who are young and make mistakes and want to grow, and there's some that don't. And we know what happens to the ones that don't. So I don't need to discuss them. I'm putting this out here and I want to be that positive light because the person that wants to grow might feel a way because he misunderstood. or mistook our conversation about those people who don't want to grow when we label all those people at that level the same way. You get what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I
You know
understand
what I mean?
that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that's my flexion point, or I'm using the wrong term. You know, I do that sometimes, especially when I ain't drink my tea right. But that's why I don't want, because I was one of those guys, right? I'm sitting there and I asked. I love taking pictures of women at a time when I first started photography, and I asked the photographer, you sound like a horny young man. No, I like it. I never slept with any models I shot. I always tried to make them feel comfortable. But you just wouldn't teach me or wouldn't want to work with me because your assumption is
Mm-hmm.
that I'm
right.
just trying to do
A lot of
this.
times that's a reflection of the person that you're talking to, right? And a lot of times that's what they think that they would be doing if they are in that space. So
Or
what I often
experience.
say, right? As what I constantly tell people about this industry is that you got to give people room to change. There's growth that needs to happen, and if somebody comes to you and is truly looking for help, I do not. I give away a ton of game, a ton of information. Here's the thing: most people ain't gonna do nothing with it anyway. I could tell you how to do it, and I think Michael, we talked about this before. We can give away all this information, but the big thing is, are you going to take that information that I gave you and actually go out here and do something with it? Most people don't. They get the information from you, and they still want to do things their own way, and then they might come back and say, hey, you told me how to do such and such, and it took me a couple times, and I finally went back and did it, and yeah, you were right.
So
Sometimes people have to
I'm gonna
get
throw
there on
this
their
up here real quick because this is so Michael Brown and Legend Brown said you guys are talking from a producer mindset, but you're frowning on Tubi. We're not frowning on Tubi. Actually, I think
No.
Tubi is actually one of the most viable things about independent films. It's a way to leverage. So just to answer that, no one here frowns on it because we all talk business. We not on here. We all just have business discussions, and Tubi is one of the greatest ways we believe in Black filmmakers leveraging their work and their growth.
And we
Um,
were
absolutely.
and we were
Tubi
discussing
is
how
a
the
more
perception of
studio.
Tubi can
Hmm?
can influence how people see or want to distribute their movies on Tubi. People's perception and how they got there. Not that we frown on it, because I think almost most of us here have a movie on Tubi or something similar.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
yeah. So like what we're saying is, because I always look at any platform that you can get is. See, you're saying independent, but as a producer, your goal is to land a distribution deal. Yes, and we all consider distribution different.
Can I chime in on that?
Yeah, go ahead.
The term distribution deal. So here's the thing. Those days are pretty much gone. Where somebody signs you because you're going to get into their market. They're looking for dollars and cents, and if you don't have a plan of your own to identify who your audience is, right up front,
Mm-hmm.
then no one's going to come, right? You have to foster those relationships yourself, and this should be part of a distribution plan, right? And they're not going to come to you with a plan. They're going to come to you and offer you a spot on their whatever, a spot on the shelf, a spot on their
On the
platform,
platform. Mm-hmm.
right? But you, as the filmmaker, as a producer, need to, before your film is made, start to understand what that plan is for distribution. Are you going overseas? Are you going to Tubi? Are you going to go to Amazon? Are you going to go to another streaming? There's tons of other streaming platforms to be on,
That you haven't
right?
heard of. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, that you haven't even heard of. So again, they're not going to give you a distribution deal per se. They're going to give you an opportunity to be on a platform. You, as a producer, and the rest of your team, need to determine what your distribution plan is, and then approach those pieces of the plan separately, because they don't all work together. Unless you're on something like a film hub where they aggregate your film to a bunch of different platforms for
Mm-hmm.
you.
And you still got to market.
Nobody, and then you still have to market it, right? So nobody is going to just sign you. That what you need to do is you need to know all of this information so that when you are putting your film out into the world, you're giving it its best chance to survive. And distribution is one part of getting to market that you just need to really understand how and who that audience is, because if you show up at AFM and you don't know, who your audience is, where they are, how to reach them, and how to speak to them, there's a less chance that anybody will want you on their platform. There's too much work when there's a lot of other filmmakers out there that have already done that work, have built an audience, and it's plug and play at that point.
Mm-hmm. Hey, fellas, I got to run. It was great talking to you. I appreciate all of you, but I got to run out of here, Mike.
Yeah, yeah. I remember you want to do your 60-second jewel, and then
I mean, you got to get in, go hard, and keep growing.
all right.
Good.
We appreciate you, brother. I know you got something to do, and we will talk later. And I thank you, appreciate you for hopping on. Jacoby's checking out, y'all, but he will be back as always because it's Jacoby.
Yes.
And we will
All right,
talk to you later, bro.
Peace.
All right, peace. All right,
peace.
so Dr. Thaddeus Jones, we are going to. I'm going to move you over to right here, and we're gonna go right here. And oops, uh, I don't know what just happened. It doesn't
It's,
like me.
it's
There we
all
go.
good.
All right, so it's us two now. But I want to talk because I know we're not gonna stay too long, but I want to talk producing, right? Because you
Okay.
got some content out there. You're on Tubi,
Mm-hmm.
you're on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
So you're places that people are trying to hit now, right? As independent filmmakers. So what was your process, right? What would you do to get there?
So part of the process was understanding early on who we could possibly partner with, right? Especially, so
Mhm.
some of the work is shorts, right? And shorts don't necessarily have uh, a huge market, right? So there's the film festival circuit, right?
Excuse me.
And,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a number that was an approach for shorts to be able to start to make a name for ourselves, and that will lend itself to opportunities of getting shorts up. And so entered a couple festivals, um, and started doing some research on festivals that had the opportunity to expose me to distribution or other perks on the other side, right? So whether it's a fellowship or whether it was distribution or the opportunity to network with someone that may be able to help us grow, I chose festivals that had those kind of benefits.
Okay.
Uh, and so for the shorts work, that is what allowed us to be able to get onto a streaming platform with shorts. For long form work, really, there's two things that I would tell everybody to do is know your audience first, like know who you're trying to market your film to, and then go to where those people are.
Mm-hmm.
So the you're going to make your film, however you fund that film is, and that's a whole nother discussion. If we're talking about funding the film, then we can talk about that as well. But the distribution side, once the film is done, there's aggregates out there like a film hub that will QA/QC your film, make sure you have all the things that you need to have to be able to stream, and then they will try to place you with platforms that are looking for content. Everybody is looking for content, so there's no shortage of places to go. It's just now, are you producing quality work? Are you producing consistent work? Are you producing work that people are interested in seeing? And
Okay.
so once you determine that, where that audience is and how to get there, um, you can go about it on your own. You can go about it with a aggregate like a Film Hub, or you can reach out. You used to be able to reach out directly to Tubi. You can't anymore. Now you have to go through an aggregate to get there.
Right.
Uh, and so, you know,
For
and
the
then there's always YouTube too.
the
Too. So
for the
there's
person that doesn't know what's an aggregate.
so an aggregate is a third party company that will basically present your work to platforms. They have a relationship with platforms and other distribution uh, channels, and they will present your work for you.
Okay.
So, for instance, they will, you have a feature length film, you want to get it in Walmart. The aggregate will reach out to those channels and try to make that happen. Streaming and all these other different platforms as well. They're the point of contact for you. So no longer you're not directly talking to Afro TV Land. Um,
Hmm.
the aggregate is talking to Afro TV Land and presenting them with a package of films they might be interested in, and then somebody on Afro TV Land says, "Yeah, we'll take this, 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 and this," and then you get the notification, "Hey, you've been licensed by, um, Afro TV Land or whoever."
Right. No, no, I just because I definitely want people to understand because like one of the things we don't talk about in distribution heavily as independent filmmakers is how distribution sometimes works to your benefit or lack of,
Mm,
because some distributors, they some distributors focus on your film, just your film. Other distributors will take a batch of films and say, "Hey, we're going to give you guys all these films," and you get lesser deals with that
yep.
because you're a one in 100 that's being given to various platforms.
Yep. No
They're like,
special
"Hey, we
attention.
distribute it."
Yeah, no special attention in those kinds of situations. It's hey, we need you're part of a slew of films, a cache or a library of
Hmm.
films that we're offering, a catalog. That's the word I was looking
Yeah,
for. You're part of a catalog of films that we're offering up, and sometimes you get picked up, sometimes you don't, and if you do, here's your percentage of you need X amount of streams to make $1, right? So
yeah.
uh, it's not an overnight thing. It's all ad based, either AVOD, which is ad revenue based, right? Ad videos on demand. Subscription based, which is your Netflix models, like people that pay a monthly subscription to those platforms, right? And that way you're not interrupted by ads. Everything is going to ad based pretty much because even Netflix now is got an ad based.
I'm about to say if you're not paying the amount of money, you're getting ads. Same thing with Amazon. Same thing.
Yep.
Hulu's always done that. But I find it interesting because when I look at ad base, um, I'm thinking to myself, why am I paying to see ads then? Why am I paying anything at all? Right. And that's where Tubi comes in. That's where Crackle or the other one slipped my mind for a second. Pluto. Right.
Pluto.
These guys, this where these guys come in because you're getting commercials, but it's free. The app is
and
free.
and they don't charge the filmmakers, um,
Exactly.
right? And so that's the big plus of being on a platform like that. And though you might have incurred some fees to get there, um, if your movie is interesting, people sit through those ads. And the more
Mhm.
ads they sit through, that's more money for you. If they make it all the way through your movie and
Right.
sat through all the ads, you're going to make a higher dollar amount than if somebody who comes in halfway leaves, saw two ads versus somebody came through, watched the whole movie to completion and saw the 20 ads that were slated for that one production, you're going to
I
make a
mean,
lot
just
more.
like YouTube, YouTube has now a selling point. They also rent out your films if you're on a YouTube.
Yep.
So there's other ways, but like, because I was having conversations with different people, right? I always look at how, because that's the question I get called for.
Mm-hmm.
How can I best distribute my film and have control, right? You got sites, because I've been testing out fan base, right? I
Mm-hmm.
want to see how fan base is useful to a filmmaker. Um, I haven't totally seen anything yet, but I'm testing it out. I'm trying to see, how it works, because you're supposed to be able to make money off a film fan base with subscriptions, which was what an OnlyFans was supposed to do for
Right.
filmmakers or anybody. It turned into something different. Um, but then you have a um, what's the starts with a P? It's in my head, man. That everybody, huh?
Patreon.
Patreon. There we go. There we go. So you have a Patreon, because they asked me about it, because Patreon has their new secondary platform now that's geared towards film or content creators in that sense. Where Patreon was like, subscribe to my Patreon, do this, where they can now. There's another thing, because I think Big Ja did Lesbian Homie 3,
Let
and
me
he
homie
had a
three.
screening through their other Patreon's other platform. And he made it was like charging what $12.99 or whatever for people to see, and that's why I say it's important for us to understand what avenues we have, because one of the big things is movie theaters are hurting, right?
That
And
paradigm is going to change.
and
It's
remember
got.
when I said I predicted it, and I told you guys movie theaters going to have to deal with independent filmmakers to get that income, and you can make sweeter deals with a movie theater, because you, a studio, the way a studio functions is the movie theater doesn't get paid until after 2 weeks, right? They
Mhm.
don't start making money until after the first 2 weeks of a film.
Yeah,
And
most of the films are on a like I program a movie theater, so
Mhm.
when I get films from I won't say any names, but from a big company, most of the terms are in favor of the big company, right? So you're talking about 60-40 split, 60 66 whatever, right? Sometimes even 70-30, right? So the lion's share of the first couple weeks of the films go to back to the distributor. And film, theaters usually make their money off concessions, which is why they're arm and a leg now, right?
Right.
But what I tell people now is that you used to be able to go to a theater and it was an experience, and that has been lost. And until that happens again, and that's only going to happen with, I think, right now with independent filmmakers, we can make experiences in theaters that bigger films cannot. We're lighter. We have to use our quote unquote weakness as our strength. And the fact that we can actually be in the theater, that we can actually have experiences and create spectacles out of our films for screenings to
Mhm.
draw people in, it is going to make it worth going to the theater to see.
But what theaters will have to do is cut their cost for independent film screening their films. Like, where you're
We need,
looking at, was
we
it
need to be
12,
a partnership.
1,500, right?
Yeah.
Where you're gonna have to say, hey, we're gonna have to cut that in half and split the proceeds.
Yep. We
You
need to
know.
be in partnership. What I see that a lot of theaters do with independents is they say, well, listen, if you take care of the marketing for your film, if
Mm-hmm.
you take care of the one sheets, if you take care of the social media, we'll go 50-50, and we'll take care of the screening and the ticketing and all of this other stuff. And I think that's a fair deal most of the times. It's like, listen, the theater wants to know that you're going to fill the seats.
Mm-hmm.
They want to know that you're spending money to get people in the seats if they are doing a limited run with you. What they don't want is an empty theater that they could have showed Minions 4 in and they made a couple $1,000 versus, and have to split that with whoever, versus an empty theater that two people showed up every night to see, and they're out of, they didn't even break even on what they spent to show the film, right? Because it
Mm-hmm.
costs money to show the film. It's electricity to show the film. It's empty seats. They lost on concessions. They lost on all these things. And so by creating that experience and coming in with a plan, with a marketable plan, you can show theaters like, listen, we can do this, and you'll make more money with me than you will with them.
I'll put it like this. So, um, what filmmakers really could do and theaters could do is the film showcase, right? Let's just say I'm a filmmaker. I got 7 or 10 other filmmaker friends who all have feature films. And we say, all right, we're going to go to AMC in Chicago and we're going to hang out in Chicago for a week. We're already going to be promoting this before we even get there. Right?
Yep.
And every night at 8 o'clock or 7:30 or whatever, let's say 7 o'clock every night,
Yep.
you get to meet the director of each film,
Yep.
and you meet them on Monday. So on Monday, my film is playing. On Tuesday, your film is playing. On Wednesday, TK's film is playing. On Thursday, Jacoby's film is playing. On Friday, you got this, and on Saturday, we have a full day. You just run them all in 1 or 2 theaters that whole day, and we're there to meet and greet. We're there to do, and here's your secondary marketing, right? And I'm gonna explain because this worked before, right? I used to go to DC. That's how I met Tim Alexander when he did Diary of a Tired Black Man. It's you meet different people. I saw a lot of films that way in DC, and that showcase model to me was working. Well, they ended it. It disappeared. People weren't doing it as much. But now is a perfect time to hop back in because it's a missing construct. And then, now here's what that does, though. That now creates the buzz. So when your film does come on Tubi,
Exactly.
when your film does come, now the thing is, the added incentive to come in and see my film and your film was we were there. You got to shake hands and meet people. That to me is, and it was used, but it's not new. But I remember that's how I met Tyler Perry.
Well, that's the same. That's the same hustle, man. And you can sell your merch. You can sell your T-shirts.
Mm-hmm.
You can. This is your secondary market now. You can have your DVDs or thumb drives for sale.
And like you can interview people after they've seen your film, which
and now
is
you got
another marketing tool.
Yes.
Right. And this is why websites, social media, these things are so important, because when someone steps on, let's say, the Black Filmmakers Lounge, like you're here, people get to meet you, they get but they're getting the behind the scenes when we're talking.
Right.
You know, this is a conversation. This isn't, let me tell you, really, your market comes in here because we're talking, we're discussing this industry, and we're aimed, right? This part of the Black Filmmakers Lounge is aimed towards filmmakers. That's the market for this, right? To help us increase our value in our industry and become more viable, because it's not that we're not viable, but we have to have a marketing sense. I've seen people overcharge for their films when they rent a theater. They're like, oh, it's $20. I can go see a regular movie that's studio based and I ain't spending $20. Now you might be, but because the prices have jumped up. But like, we went to see Bad Boys. My wife, my son, and I. He came to visit before he went away for the military. Most recently, we saw the recent Bad Boys movies. That cost me $75 for the 3 of us. I was like, and that wasn't even food. That was just to go see the movie.
Right.
I was like, wait, $75? I could $29.99. I could just rent this and watch it at home. What?
At home and cook.
Right, and actually eat what I want to eat, not what they have on their limited menu.
Yeah.
But see, that's where, now that you have this, what I see is a movie theater has to have the smarter business plan. Right?
It totally does.
And you have to have, so when I'll tell you the difference, like there's AMC, there's Regal, Cinemark, and Alamo, right? Mm-hmm. Alamo is like dine-in. They feed you food, they get alcohol, all that stuff. And I think AMC has started to do a little bit of that.
They're doing a little bit of that, yep.
Regal didn't do that. What Regal had, and that hurt them because Regal had the worst food out of all the theaters I've been to. Regal and
Yeah,
Cinemark had the
totally. And
worst food
they're shifting their menu now. They I was in a Regal to see Trap. They're doing hamburgers. They're doing hot dogs. They're doing
because
pizza.
that's what AMC was doing,
Yep.
right? And but Regal's plan was the seating, select seating. You get recliners and so forth. AMC's new plan is to make the recliner, like make seating vary in price by location. Because I always get back row top center. Like that's just me, right? The thing I liked about Regal was the Cinema X, which Cinemark is now promoting, but Cinema X was the round screen that went all the way around you. We as filmmakers, and that's where we have to think about filming, how we're filming this, because if you're going to be in a Cinema X as an independent filmmaker, then you need to shoot on a anamorphic lens, right? You need, and so you got to understand that.
And if you don't, then you're limiting yourself. At least you're not taking full advantage of what could be for your particular film. Mm-hmm. And again, that's part of doing the research up front and talking about the motivations for the film and how it should look and feel and sound and all of these things. And now we're talking about the craft of it. But as a producer, I need to know those things because I need to know as I'm putting the plan together for us to get distribution where I need to be targeting my resources, my connections, and I think that part of the game for independence is where we are lacking in that in the business. We're not lacking in creativity. What we are lacking in is the ability to take this as a business. This business could change your life if you treat it as such, and treat it with the respect that you would treat any other career. But if you are treating it as a hobby, it's going to pay you like a hobby. It's gonna treat you like a hobby,
right?
You know what I mean? And everybody starts somewhere, but when you cross that threshold of like, yeah, I think I want to do this as a career, you see how Spike Lee, who's still very independent, will tell you, I'm funding my own films. Shyamalan says the same thing, even though some of his work as of lately, but he funds his own films. Because he understands that if I want control, I got to have the funding to back it. And I saw an interview recently, I think it was Matt Damon was talking about how they used to have this bread and butter drama film that, it was all relationship that they used to do. Mm-hmm. And that film would say cost him, I think he said $50 million. And then they would spend $50 million on, and this is small budget for them, $50 million to do P&A, which is advertising and promotion, right? So now you got $100 million film that you have to, in order to break even on, you got to make $100 million on, and so it does on a drama that's not happening because they don't have the DVD market anymore. So you see where we're pushing budgets, small micro level budget can make their money back a lot faster. And so on the independent level, if we're shooting films at $250,000 to, I would say, ultra low budget is up to, I think, $5 million is considered ultra low budget or low budget. If we're working in those ranges and we are able to recoup our money quickly, it makes it more profitable for somebody to come in and say, oh, okay, so I can put in, $50,000 and know that principal photography is taken care of.
Right. Well, and the other thing is, it's like I'll take it a step further back. If you take the Ava DuVernay route of $50,000 film,
yep,
you're garnering better if you can take $50,000 and take another $50,000 to $100,000 and just do the straight marketing.
Absolutely.
Because what ends up happening to me, I'm thinking like my mistake. I'm not gonna say mistake. My lesson learned. First feature film, I was like, and I told you this. I was like, all right, when I do a trailer, I'm not putting it on social media or I am, but I'm not just focusing on social media or focusing on YouTube. I'm gonna put it in on television, and it's those certain markets where the
Yep.
demographics that meet the film. Because if you got a
Same thought.
60-second trailer, right? Then boom, you've opened a door. Um, and we think it's expensive. Right now, I don't know how many of y'all spending time on Facebook and stuff, but Paramount Plus has been advertising the pennies for
I'm loving it. I'm loving it.
for promoting and marketing. Because people are like, isn't it more expensive to put on TV? No, it's less expensive than radio. It has been
and,
always.
and it's so targeted. You can target, and this is the thing I tell the people the same thing about this circuit. I can pay for ads in a place that I know I'm going. If I'm going to Chicago, and I know where my demographics are and who age range I'm looking for, I can target that
Mm-hmm.
and around this theater. And so I can be so annoying to these folks that when they let me go and check this out and see what's going on over here. And now I've got a buzz. But we are not utilizing these resources that are clearly they're hungry for us. Hulu has ad manager, Paramount has ad manager. You can advertise on Tubi, like, and this is where people are. Facebook is good, but you can be on somebody's television when they are watching Love and Hip Hop, when they are doing watching something
Love
on
and
Paramount.
marriage.
Yes,
Yeah, all that
and
stuff. Yeah.
and they're already in the vein of the thing that you're doing. If I I'm doing a horror movie, I'm going. So I want to be on a channel that's got horror ads
Sci-fi.
running,
Yeah.
sci-fi, right? I want to
TNT.
be on exactly. I want to be where my audience is. And now is just one of the times where it's never been easier. All you got to do is like put the money in the bag. You know what I mean? Like put the money in the bag because no other independent. I'm letting something out now because this is exactly what I'm planning on doing. Is like no other independent features have I seen really run ads on television, and it seems
No,
like
no,
a no.
I've been saying that for years, and I've been telling people that, like, yo, you have to. Uh, why Master P, when he first came out in a lot of these independent record labels, they started putting ads in Source or the
Yep.
magazine. They started running commercials on BET and MTV where you're gonna watch the music videos for their stuff. They were doing that, and I'm sitting here like, filmmakers, what are you doing? It's not. It's like the model isn't new. It's that the
No.
fact that you need to understand that it's there and there's a reason it works. It's a reason if you bombard your audience constantly with the trailer of your film, it makes people go, I want to see it. Like I was telling, we all talk. Like I was like, yo, I saw the trailer for Transformers 1, and the first trailer, I wasn't interested. I saw the second trailer, I was like, wait a second, that's a much better trailer. So it's also the important of what trailer is going to really sell to who your audience is and
And I see them
how.
cut different trailers for different
Mm-hmm.
audience. Different stations, you see a different version. I'm loving what they're doing with the Alien Romulus
Right.
uh, ads right now, and even on the on the street stuff that they had in New York. What was that Friday? Where they
What,
had people
here.
with face huggers
Yeah.
on the streets. Just oh man, listen,
What,
talk about innovative marketing.
and that's the key. That's what we, and the thing is, and this is why I said earlier, you have to define independent film,
Yes.
because the problem is an independent film is actually no different than a major motion picture. Here's the difference: a motion picture is funded by a studio. An independent film is funded by privateers, investors, so forth. They could have the same budget if you got
Yep.
the right investors.
Yep.
It's independent because it's outside of the studios.
And
That's
all
what
that
makes
means
it
for
independent.
us is that we need the relationships to be able to talk to financiers. If you are making money, they're gonna come to you.
Right.
If you have proven to make money as an independent, why would they not? They don't have to now share that money with the studio.
Mm-hmm.
You can broker a better deal on distribution. You can broker a better return on investment. Like it's a no brainer. But what the studio has is a machine, is
Mm-hmm.
a set of procedures in place that they know they're going to spend X amount on promoting a film. They're going to get you into these different markets where they've got people behind it to push this. And if you can set up the same or similar strategy and structure as an independent, you can maximize your ability to win at this game, even with a smaller budget. Right?
Yeah.
It just is what it is. It's just a matter of selling people that you are consistent enough. You're going to put out a high quality product, and people want to see what you have to say.
So I mean, and that's and that in producing, and we're gonna have to talk about producing further, deeper, more on another show because we didn't dive into it as deep as I would have liked us to.
Mm,
But it's something you have to think about because we have to define what a producer is because there's different producers, right?
different. Oh
And
yeah,
and
tons.
the problem is people go, I want to be a producer. Well, what does
And they
that
don't
mean?
even know what a producer does. Right? Yeah.
Exactly. I've
Yeah.
ran into that several times, and I'm like, there's a lot of legwork put into producing, right? There's a producer who finds the money. That's usually your executive producer. They either put
That's
in
right.
money or they find money. Then you have your actual producer who lays out, hires the director, puts in a director saying, hey, hire certain staff. That producer also hires
So
their,
it's that plan.
yeah, and puts together because that producer is in charge of business,
Mm-hmm.
right? The flow and
That
the
producer
functionality of
usually
the company.
answers to the financier, right? That producer's making sure that we're staying on budget, that make sure that we have the right people for the ultimate vision and all blah yada yada. They're the first line of defense to make sure that the budget is as a filmmaker, your job as a filmmaker and as a producer is that you got to take care of that budget. You got to make sure that as a producer, we are, making our days. We are not going over budget. As a producer, you sometimes have to, that particular type of producer, have to wrangle in a director who might be, so into the art of something they don't care how far behind we are,
Right.
and you have to be like, whoa, 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 whoa. So this, we're not pouring from an infinite jug of money here. We need to make sure that we make our days, or we're going to lose something, right? We're going to cut something else to have this. So how important is this to you? And I think
Mm-hmm.
as an independent that has worked as a director for other people, as a script coordinator for other people, and as a producer for other people, the clarity of the vision is necessary prior to being on set, prior to any hire. You need to know exactly what it is you're trying to accomplish with this, and I think that often is the piece that gets left out from this perspective. Is like, a producer needs to know that information as well,
Mm-hmm.
so that everything works together, and we're working in the same, we're pushing the wagon in the same direction. It doesn't make sense if I'm pushing uphill and you in front of the wagon pushing back down, or you sitting in
Right.
the wagon, you're not helping, right? So,
I got
you know
I
lots of
got a
different producers.
question.
Yeah.
As a producer, how do you select the projects you want to get behind to help get funding and get done?
For me, it starts with the story. I obviously, and I've had some scripts that I was like, man, this is good. I've never seen this story before. I want
Mm-hmm.
to see the story. Um, and then you start to say, well, do I even have the connections I need to, like, what do I need to make this happen? So once I read a story, if I like the story, I want to talk with the writer, or if it's a writer director, I want to talk with the writer and the director to get a vision, to see if our visions match, right?
Okay.
Because if I'm a producer brought on and our vision of what this should be or could be doesn't match the intent, then well, I think you got a cool story, but I might not be the right person to bring this to life.
Okay.
Uh, and so I look at that, but then I also, from a business standpoint, I have to look at the dollars and cents of it. Is this a film that I think that we could reasonably produce with the resources we have? And if not, can I get those resources to be able to produce this film? So, if somebody comes to me with a $300 million budget for this space extravaganza, sci-fi, special effects, heavy laden thing, I may not be the right person for you, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
my connections as a producer does not lend me to industrial light and magic, right? At this time, right?
Right.
So I might not be that person. So, and then I also look at, like, do I have the network to bring this to distribution? Do I have the network to bring this to completion, to actually get this to the public, so we can actually see if this will? You're gambling all the time, but to see if we have a chance at making our money back, and actually making a go at it. What does that look like? Is that streaming and four walling? Is that a college circuit? Is that straight theatrical release? Is that direct to TV? Are we going to try to sell this to BET streaming? What are the things that we're going to do and are those doors open? But ultimately, all of those things come together to help me determine whether I think I'm a good fit and they're a good fit and the story is a good fit and it's the right time, because timing is, man, you can't put a dollar amount on timing. If you have a story that you can see around the curve with, that
Mm-hmm.
something is coming and you're ahead of the curve, those films make me excited. I'm working on one like that now that I'm actually writing, and I think if I can get it done in the time that I want to get it done, it's around the curve, right? It's that timing element, that chance element that oftentimes is overlooked. Nothing wrong with making a film when you can, but the timing of a subject matter is sometimes crucial to the success of that particular film. So when we look
Mm-hmm.
at uh, a film like A Fruitvale Station, that came out at a time of political and turmoil and unrest, and when the nation is having a conversation about policing that we're still having, right?
Right.
These The film comes out and it does two things. One is it exposes us to the conversation of, well, are police really that bad in African American communities, right?
Mm-hmm.
And black folks have been saying, yeah, but now you can see it, right? Now you're seeing it firsthand, and then we now having that conversation of, well, these are outliers. These are not, that's one cop, that's one incident, and now you go, well, hold on for a
Right.
second. We got this, and all these different things happening. So
Right.
they are the timing of that sparks that conversation that allows you to get that extra push. Same thing that happened with Get Out. Honestly, um, Jordan Peele dropped that film, and Blumhouse was smart to drop that film at a time when we were in the midst of the end of the Obama era,
Mm-hmm.
where we have this allyship that is not necessarily allyship, and as when we talk about, well, white people having the same, I would the line is, I would have voted for Obama again if I could, like, those kinds of
Right.
things are the conversations that people are actually having outside of the theater in real life, in the context of a horror movie, allows for further discussion of what our country was about to go through and is still currently going through. And so timing for those kinds of films are immensely important, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can't say enough. So for me, all of those things are calculated together. And then last but certainly not least, I gotta like the people I'm working with. I
Right.
cannot work with, if a lot of people are jerks, and that's cool for them, but we have to have a synergy. We have to be able to work together and get on the same page, at least for however many months we're going to be working on this project together to get it through and get it out. And if we can't find that common ground, then we're just not a fit, and I might pass it on to somebody else. And there's no hard feelings about it. I just have to calculate all of those things together. So people will sign on as a producer to just about anything sometimes, because they want to feel relevant. I just don't do that.
No, I understand. I think it's synergy is very important to me, right? I have to be able to work with people that I can get things done. We have to feel a camaraderie. There has to be a belief system that we believe in what we're working on. When I find that people, like, I've actually stared away and I test people out, to see how much they believe in what they're doing. Um, because unfortunately, some people are like, well, I just did it because of this. And you're like, so you didn't believe in it. So you don't bring the energy and the fortitude, everything about it, fortitude, all that to the forefront, because it's not something you wholeheartedly believe in. You're just doing it for a dollar, or you're doing it to be seen, to be famous. And those are usually, to me, the wrong reasons to do things, because you do them half-heartedly.
Man, you preaching. That is the so true. Like people who just like, I'm in it for the. I do. I tell people all the time, I'm a filmmaker because I can't do anything else. I don't want to do anything else. I'm a miserable person doing anything else. I have lots of other skills that I
Mm-hmm.
could do other things, but I'm a miserable person. I would be making films if it wasn't my career. Like once I got bit by this bug, it wasn't going anywhere. But there are some people that are tourists to this career path, and they want to make as much money as quickly as they can. Don't care who they step on. It is not really a passion for them. It's I just want to be in front of the camera. I just want to be famous. I just want people to see me, hear me, whatever. And they think that this is the way to go about doing it. And if you don't have a passion for this industry, it's going to be hard on you. There are days where you are going to, if you are not passionate about this, just find something else. Because I promise you, this is not an easy path to be on.
Right.
It is one of the more difficult. Art is difficult, period, because it's so subjective,
And
right?
I think that's the problem, because we all say the words art, right? And when Jacoby was talking about art earlier, I look at filmmaking as an art form, but as a business, right?
It is.
And you have to be able to decipher sometimes, because I was called a Renaissance man, right? Because I did spoken word, I did actual art, painting and drawing, I did
All of that.
music, I did everything, right? Um, and to me, the mistake artists make is never understanding business, right? They want to make a living doing their art. And it comes a time where you have to understand what's business and what's art, and learn how to decipher the two. Where somebody just looking from the outside in who wants to be famous, and this is why I always ask that question: why do you want to make movies? I'm a
Right.
natural storyteller. Making movies is just another way of storytelling. Music, storytelling, art, drawing, painting, storytelling. A picture says 1,000 words. They're all forms of storytelling.
Yep.
But you can get paid telling stories, because people want stories. People want to escape. People want to read books. People want to imagine things. People want to sit back, relax, and watch something. And I think we put so much pressure on filmmakers sometimes that, because there was one guy, he was talking about, I think I sent it to you guys. He was talking about how BET told him he has to dumb down his writing, because some people aren't gonna connect to it, or it's too overly intelligent, things like that. And there are some markets for that. You can't deny it, because if there wasn't, people wouldn't be watching it. but there's markets for
Mhm.
intelligent writing just as well, right? We talk
Absolutely. And
about
you gotta
intelligent
plant your
stories,
feet, man.
huh?
You got to plant your feet. You got to plant your feet, and you got to decide, like that young man did. Listen, this is not what I'm doing. I don't do that,
Exactly, right? You
and
got to
and
say
and
no.
that's okay. Yeah, I totally agree with that. There are some things that I write that I'm just like, oh yeah, this is not the market for that. And there are other things that are silly and dumbed down, and they're dumbed down is not the word I want to use.
Simplified.
They're just superficial, yeah,
Yeah.
simplified, right? Because the story, and to their point, he was saying, well, these are stories that people aren't paying attention to. They're cooking while they're doing it. That to me, that's reality TV. I could exit reality. It's like soap operas, right? You
Right.
know what I mean? Like you could go in the kitchen and cook and do something and come back 10 minutes and you haven't missed anything. You haven't missed a pivotal piece of the story that's going to help you understand it. But also, it's communication. It's how we communicate with each other.
Hmm.
Storytelling is the best form of communicating because we can all resonate with that story in some way, shape, or form. And if you are speaking to the right audience, this is why I love advertising too, because if you're speaking to the right audience, it don't even have to be about the product. It can be a story that is heartfelt, like Publix. I teach my class those Publix commercials with the man guy making dinner. And you think it's for a date, and it turns out it's a little girl that he
Hmm.
of the it's a little girl of the woman he's dating, and this is his first time meeting her, and that kind of stuff. Like those little heartfelt things people can identify with,
The
and
closet
then
commercial.
the
The
which
woman,
one?
like, hi, Michael. The one where the woman's sitting in front of the closet in the mirror, and she's like, hi, Michael, it's nice to meet you. And you're thinking it's about adoption, which she is doing, is adopting or getting a foster child, but it's a closet commercial.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. I
Yeah,
didn't see
I'll
that.
find it and send it to you. But like those play at your emotional strings because we learn ethos, lotos, pathos. We
Yep,
we
that's
learn
it.
about marketing and we
That's right.
learn what does what and why and how to. And that's the thing about filmmakers, right? A producer has to understand how we gonna market this because
Yep.
you understand the marketing. Then when you talk distribution or you talk to a distributor who does the marketing, you're gonna know if they're connecting with you or not, or what they're saying to you makes sense because you've already thought of that. But
Yep.
when you're just making a movie to make a movie and you have no idea of audience, that's the big thing we talk about here all the time on the lounge and in the know your audience. If you don't know your audience, you've already defeated yourself.
Absolutely. It ties your hands. If you don't know your audience, you don't know how to bring in any brand affiliates. You don't know how to bring in anybody that can help you sell and reach the market.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know how to strategically place anything in your film to leverage for production. You don't know. There's so much you don't know because you don't know who you're talking to, and it is a very young, or I should say very immature mentality to be like, my movie is for everyone. It is not. No movie is for everyone.
Right.
uh, just like no product is for everyone, and so you have to understand that your movie is the product. And if we're talking advertising, your movie is the product, and
Mm-hmm.
people are going to align their brand with a product that speaks the same language to the same audience, right? And if you are not, then you're doing yourself a disservice because you're fighting against yourself. You're fighting against where you want to be by not understanding who you're actually talking to.
Mm-hmm.
And I think some of the best films find their audience. Like I think the filmmaker knew who their audience was, but maybe the distributor wanted to go a different way in the marketing, and then they end up doing themselves a disservice. It doesn't do well in the box office, and then it finds a market after the fact on TV. You're like, man, why didn't I go to the movies and see this? And then you go back and look at the marketing for it, and you're like, oh, that's why it wasn't marketed to me.
Yeah, and there's movies that people think are bad because of, and this is why I don't hate it. I'm never a fan of constant criticism, especially it's easy to pick apart somebody else's work, right? Than it is sometimes your own. I mean, people, we're in, you and I, we float in the same groups, we know. But it's so interesting because when I'm telling people, I'm like, oh, you're spending way too much time tearing this film down or this guy's stuff. Focus, your energy is in the wrong spot, because I look at things as, if this story is bad, I can make it better. So how do I make it? Because guess what? Most films are rehashing other films in the first place.
Absolutely.
It's
Absolutely.
the stories don't change. You got the buddy films. It's a buddy cop. It's the Odd Couple. They're the same. You got the Romeo and Juliet star-crossed lovers. You have the betrayal, the Hamlet stories.
Yeah,
Um, you,
there's only seven. We talk about the seven or the 10 different stories. I think it's seven, but
well,
man versus
to
man, man versus
Western
machine.
writers, yes. I
Hmm.
but because I one of the things I loved was taking a mythology class,
Oh
right?
yeah, love
Because it
mythology.
teaches you mythology of other countries internationally, and their style of storytelling and how different. This is why if you watch a Korean film, its storytelling is different. If you watch a film from, um, Nigeria or somewhere else or India, the story's different. What did we
It's
watch? Monkey
culture.
Man, right? Monkey
Yeah,
Man was a little different.
I love Monkey Man. It's
Yeah.
culture.
Mm-hmm.
It's culture, and the influence of culture also, it goes back to what we're talking about communication. Different cultures communicate differently. This is a different thing. This is a thing that is to your question you posed earlier about being a black, quote unquote, black filmmaker. It's because our black ADOS culture is something unique. It's something very different. And so the things that we find humor in, oftentimes people are like, that's morbid. That's why
Because
why
you
is
had
that
to
funny?
laugh and keep on crying.
Because you had to laugh to keep from crying. And so you think about things like what was that? What was the film with James Earl Jones and what's her name?
Oh, Diane Carroll,
Yeah,
Claudia,
you know,
Claudine.
Claudine. That's it. Claudine. When you think about a film like Claudine, that's got a comedic tone to it,
Well,
and
it
we're
was a comedy. I didn't realize Claudine was a comedy because I always saw it as a drama.
right. Again, we go, but we mix those two things, right? Because think about the circumstances. There are times where we're laughing to keep from crying. Same thing with like Good Times,
Mm-hmm.
um, and so even in our culture, even in the worst of times, everybody's got this person in their family. Even they're gonna make light at the most inappropriate. The car done been stolen and found on fire. It was like, well, you got a hot rod now, my boy. You're just
Yeah.
dropping. You just like, dude, this is not the time. But we it's a protection mechanism for us in how we communicate with each other.
You know what's
And
crazy
so,
is, as we were talking about ethos, lothos, and pathos in marketing, right? And I was just thinking in my head, um, because we were like the closet commercial for the woman adopting a kid, and you can see how you thinking of it touched your heart, right? And me seeing it, it touched my heart. But then I was thinking about something opposite of, like, how the story is men don't want to buy tampons and stuff for women. And yet you can have a tampon commercial where the guy walks in and he's happy to pick them up because the other guy's looking at a pregnancy test. And he's like, well, I'll get
he's
these
buying
anytime.
diapers.
Yeah, you're like, but that would sell because, men don't buy them. They will now. Like, I'll get this
They will
anytime
now, exactly.
because I ain't got to worry about.
Did you? Yeah,
What's that?
absolutely. Did you see the tampon Tampax commercial for uh, it was a campaign they just launched, a dialogue about woman's period, and it is a fantastically shot commercial. I'll try to find it and send it to you. Um, and campaign, but it makes me think about how when you speak to a specific audience,
Mm-hmm.
that audience is then informed enough that they can speak to a tangential audience and in this case, it's women and their partners, right? So I, about even in the age of men telling women about their bodies and things of that nature,
Mm-hmm.
why this conversation is important, because you might think you know, but you don't really know. And again, that's kind of the, as a man, you will never really know. And so that's kind of the same vein that we have to look at when we speak to different audiences. You speak to your specific audience, but your audience has other audiences that are close to them
Mm-hmm.
that they can speak to for you. And so you don't have to reach all of them. You have to reach your audience, and your audience will then be the prophet for you and say, hey, you should see this film. I think it's important that we watch this film, or you should see this because you're missing out on this aspect of a thing. And that's how your audience widens out. You don't have to target that audience. You let your audience speak to their tangential audience, right? Whoever they're
Yeah.
connected to.
Your sub
I think that,
audiences and connections. Yeah. And I think that's that's the mistake. Like that, the thing is, everybody will like this. It's a movie for everybody. No, it's not. And the moment you go, nah, this movie isn't for everybody. This movie is specifically for women at the age of 18 to 30 who are talking about um, what they think a man is for marriage, or who's, because that's again, and what helps us make films is the conversations, right?
exactly.
Filmmakers pay attention to what people are talking about because it helps. Sometimes it's like, yo, I, okay, I'm gonna put the producer hat on. It's profitable if I make a movie, a comedic movie about relationships, and I interject what people think a man or a woman is based on social norms and cues that are actually backwards or ironic at the end of the day, right? Because and that's why you could take a, let's say, think like a man,
Right.
right? You got four friends, you got four different women. Two of the women know each other, and the women all come together. By the second movie, they're all still there. They're more connected now, but the men have improved. And even if you look at that movie, a woman had to change her perspective because he was like, "You're thinking like a man. You talk just like a man." You know, yeah,
And
like,
all of this is about perspective and communication,
mm-hmm,
right? Perspective and communication, and being able to see yourself or someone you know in these films. That's the reason why we want to see things that resemble and that are familiar enough to us that we can see ourselves in a situation, but also give us something new. And this is the beauty of like dealing with horror and dealing with some of the films that I've had the privilege of being a part of, is that they're conversation starters,
mm-hmm,
and they offer a way to not only start a conversation about something that may be difficult to have a conversation about, but it also offers a particular point of view. We're talking and saying something. And whether you agree with that or disagree with that, the conversation is there.
right.
And,
And
and,
that's the thing. I'm a filmmaker. I like conversations. Like I want to make films that have people talking. Um, that's just me. You know, my personality. I like the debate. I like to discuss. I like to give perspective. Um, that a vantage point perspective. Like, but you didn't see it from this angle, and it's the
right,
same thing, you know. And so what they see is different than what you see, and now it's this debate happening, right? And but then somebody else goes, I don't want to do all that. I just want to
yeah,
make a movie that people just go and they laugh, they have a good time, and they go home. They can think about it when they, you know, I got this joke was in this movie, and they're good with it, right?
it's levels. And if you can make a film that exists on levels for different people, that's awesome, because there are movies that I watch that some people will watch with me and be like, oh, that's a surface, like Halloween. Halloween for me is people will go, "Oh, that's just a horror movie," and then I can go, "Well, it's really about the fear of the other. It's really about white flight. It's really about fear for your kids," and we start to pull those layers back, and it's like, man, it's just a horror movie. And so movies that exist on those that can exist with some substance and some layers are not only what we should be making, right, but are necessary to exist in those, so that people can come back to a film and go, oh, there's the rewatchability factor of, you know, for a silly movie like White Chicks, the Wayans brothers.
Mm-hmm.
That movie has a rewatchability factor. Doesn't age well, right? But when you go back and watch it, the jokes are still punchy, things still laugh, and they have one-liners, right? But you're not going to go back and see anything profound and like change your point of view of life because you weren't ready at a certain point in that particular film, right? But you might get the one-liners, or you're like, I didn't see that last time. You can have that rewatchability factor. Whereas something you watch like, I chose a comedy, but I should for this one I say like a Silence of the Lambs,
Mm-hmm.
right? You can watch Silence of the Lambs and see something different every single time you watch through it. You notice, and that has a lot to do with the performance. That has a lot to do with the source material. That has a lot to do with the pacing of the film, and it has a lot to do with where you are mentally level at the time you watch it. As a kid, when I watched it the first time, I wasn't able to understand all of the nuances that were going on there. You know, there's a like a transgender issue going on in this film. A man who wants to be a woman, right? There's a woman who is in a predominantly male industry being used, and she's young. Like there's all of these different nuances that you can pull from, and that changes with the perspective of the viewer. As the viewer mind grows, expands, and they watch more movies, they read more things, they notice more things. But you could very easily go in and watch it and see it as a surface level horror movie.
Right. Yeah, and I think as a producer, that's what you're looking at. You like, yeah, you have your films, and this is why I said earlier, you got your throwaway films, something that you can get a decent deal with. People are going to watch it, but it's to start getting this name out there. You're helping your director, but you're also helping yourself because you're looking at things like the Producers Guild, right? Because
That's
once you
right.
start produce a few, then your name is then you can join the Producers Guild and you go through their training process. Um, and those are the things. That's the conversations we all need to be having as independents. And and so Thomas said a great perspective. He says it's also the um, it's also the sophistication of the writer.
That's
Now,
true.
because I
To a
want to
certain,
dive in later at a later date, we're going to talk about this. But yeah, go ahead.
no. I think that is true to a certain extent. I've read some scripts that you can tell someone is new at the craft, right?
Mhm.
And building in, and you can tell they don't get everything, but like when you're building a world, there's a lot. I've probably rewritten some scripts, 30 times, right? And
Mhm.
every time I go through, I'm layering in something else to help strengthen the world that I'm creating. Um, but some of the simple things that some writers struggle with is just like dialogue, bloated dialogue, heavy dialogue,
Yeah.
and we don't speak that way. Short, punchy lines and we don't speak on the nose, which is the number one pet peeve I have for new writers. The dialogue says exactly what the character is thinking. When do you do that?
Subtext. Yeah, you have subtext. What gets me with dialogue, and I think this is what we were taught, writing and so forth. There's a difference between dialogue and conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Dialogue is what moves the scene and the objective of the characters,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it reveals who they are
Yep.
based on their interaction, based on what they're saying, um, how they deal with something, right? And it's like, what do I want? Excuse me. In a scene, the scene is conflict. You know,
Absolutely.
the scene is they walk in. Have you seen my keys? It's bigger than the keys. The
Correct.
keys are just the issue in front of you. The issue between the two characters is deeper than the keys. Have you seen my keys? I see you came in late, you
Right.
know, and then but they keep talking, but I need my keys. Where are my keys? I can't find my keys. And then it's like one person wants the keys to escape, to get out, to leave. The
Mm-hmm.
other doesn't know where the keys are, but their issue is, hey, you weren't home last night. Like if you take about Boomerang, when Eddie Murphy comes in, I saw you come in late. Said, yeah. And then he's like, but I love you. And I recognize it, but love should have brought you home last night. But it's
Right.
deeper than that because he couldn't accept who he was with to negate, hey, I don't need to mess with this woman over here. I have
Right.
somebody at home. And that's the subtext is you devalued me as a person because you stayed
Right.
out late last night trying to figure out who you were, which is who you should have figured out before you got involved
Well,
with me.
you got
And that's
involved with
what
me.
was said,
Exactly.
but it wasn't said.
Right. And that is great writing when you have the subtext exist and we know what they're saying without it being said on the nose word for word. You devalued me. No, we know by the actions, we know by the tone, we know by all of these other things. And I think that to Thomas's point, when you have a writer that hasn't kind of crested there yet, hasn't gotten there yet, then you definitely have to massage that a little bit and go back through the script and work with the dialogue so that it is, and not only the dialogue, the actions, because a lot of young writers don't have enough action that people aren't just standing there talking; they're
One of
doing.
my first biggest mistakes in my first feature. There are a lot of they're kind of they're not eating while they're talking, but they're sitting, right? And they're having a conversation, but they
And the
should be
food is just there.
eating.
They should be eating.
Yeah,
Right.
right. Or they should be washing dishes when they're having a conversation. Because when we as human beings, with the exception of a podcast or a live stream or a seminar, we're usually doing something when we're
Yep.
engaging in conversation. We watch TV and we're talking. We watch TV. We don't want to be bothered with because what we're watching is important, or we could be using the TV to mask that we don't want to be bothered. Period.
That's it.
You
That's
know,
right.
so it's that's the
Check out.
subtext.
But all of that is in the character, right? And if you haven't done your character analysis, you don't know what your character is going to do. Like, is this a kind of character that would veg out and watch TV? Like, if we looked at John Wick, there's no TV in John Wick's house. John Wick don't watch TV. He's doing things. He's driving his car. He's walking his dog. He's, you know, laying concrete in his in his garage to hide his guns.
His basement and stuff. Yeah.
Right? He's doing all of these other things, but if you notice, if you go back and watch the first one, the set pieces, minimal. He's a minimalist, right? And if you go back and look, everything is in its place. He's not OCD, but like even what he
Well,
eats.
I'm about to say the thing about John Wick is you're right. He's minimal because of his lifestyle. Like,
Exactly.
because when the cops show up, are you working again, John? We all like, wait, what? Like the
What?
cop knows, right? He's like, we now know that the people around him know what he does, and this is bigger than, and the world is much bigger than we think it is. Because we're
Correct.
always thinking, oh, everybody doesn't know about hitmen or all this. It's a smaller. No, it's hidden from us, but it's
Right.
a bigger world than us, especially when they
Beautiful.
shut down the park.
Beautiful line in the first one. When you like Jimmy he comes to the door and he's like, "Hey Jimmy," and Jimmy's like, "Hey John." No, and John goes, "Noise complaint." He's like, "Yeah," and he goes, "You working again?" He's like, "No, not really." All right, have a good night.
Yeah.
Close the door. It's like,
You're like,
it's so much
just kill these
subtext
dudes.
there. Yeah. And so even the stylized dialogue of that movie where he goes after he's killed everybody, he's like, "I like to make a dinner reservation for 12."
Right.
And so that's the sophistication of a writer to create a world that has its own own language
Mm-hmm.
that means something different but seems so very plain on the surface. Like,
Right.
anybody hear you say that I would like to make a dinner reservation for 12, you're like, oh, you get ready to have a party. Yeah, they're all
Because to
dead
keep
and they
these
need to be
guys up.
cleaned up. Yeah.
Yeah. But see, as a producer, when you're reading a script, are you looking for those things? Are you saying, I need, hey man, this is too plain. You
Yes.
want something that's going to grab your audience and make them go, oh, that's deep,
When
or oh,
I am looking for writers that have written something that starts to build out that world, that gives me something new.
mm-hmm.
That makes me feel like the key for me is like if I'm reading a script and it's just like when I go to the movies. If I'm checking my watch at the movies, I know I've checked out.
Okay.
When I'm reading a script, if I'm and an hour has gone by and I'm at the end of this and I'm like, oh crap, that's how I know I've got a good script. If I am reading a script and go, oh, oh my God, every page is torture, then I know I've got a terrible script, right? You want to be somewhere in between. There's got to be a happy medium where I can turn the page and I'm reading this and I'm not focused on the formatting. I'm not focused on, you didn't format it correctly. It's bloated in dialogue. Like I've seen scripts where a character has dialogue this long and I'm going, there is nothing you have to say that is that important. Chop that down to, and not only that, people don't talk in soliloquies like that. We don't speak in unless we're doing something like this, right? They don't
Right.
speak in those long dialogue, and so another stylized film that makes, when I think about punchy and stylized dialogue, is a movie called Brick.
Okay.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt is in that. It's an older film, not old, but it's a pretty good mix of this. They've kind of taken over the language to make it their own. Kind of like it's a neo noir film, so it's pretty good.
Bradley James said, if I can glide through the script, it makes it a lot better.
Absolutely. And when they teach you about writing, is like white space. If
Mm-hmm.
if if I get your script and it is filled from top to bottom with black space, it's going to be a hard read.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because that tells me, just by looking at it, there's not a lot of action. There's a bunch of talking heads, right? And for that to be shot, if you're speaking that much, it throws off the page count. So if you're speaking that much, it's generally a page. A page equals 1 minute worth of filming.
Right.
But if you're speaking that much, that page is bloated. Well, I want to get rid of half of that.
I'll give you something. I was watching. I watched this thing called Solos on Amazon. Right. It's a bunch of short stories, and they're all connected in some sort of way, or supposed to make some sort of connection. Um, and I watched the last one that had Morgan Freeman in it, right? And it's a conversation, right? But the conversation matters because of what kind of person each character is or was, right? And how they impact others. And then it only takes place in one location. Each one of these take place in one location, like each one of the shorts.
Okay.
And they only have maybe two, maybe three actors tops, right? That may pop up. But they have a purpose in society, or they reveal things about the character and the people around them, or what drives them. And I think that's what's important. Like your story, how your character starts off is not how they should end. If they end that way, it's because in the middle somewhere they learned a lesson, but there's no redemption.
and they made a choice to stay the same. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So they,
I think when you're doing something like that, the dialogue has to, and it's very little action. Every word matters.
mm-hmm.
Every character matters because at that point it's a study in just what that character does, and oftentimes what they say is not what they mean, and that is the key to that subtext, right? And so if you're doing when I was in college, we did these things called the bus stop scenes, and it's basic two people sitting at a bus stop having a conversation, but the subtext of the conversation lets you know what the relationship is.
Mm-hmm.
And so we don't start by revealing the relationship. The conversation they have reveals the relationship, and it's the subtext of how each reacts to the other. And so it's that kind of thing that when you are seeing those kind of exercises as I was starting out and doing film, I always understood that sometimes, how you say something is just as important as what you choose to say.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are limited to just that one scene, then it's that much more important because you don't have the luxury of taking a break or coming back. And so like especially when you want to do like tense scenes where you want the audience, I want sometimes the audience to feel uncomfortable. So I'll hold a shot in an awkward position for them where somebody has said something that we would normally cut away from to give the audience a relief to think about it for a moment or to reframe. But when you don't do that and you hold that shot, it makes the audience more uncomfortable. This is a thing that unless you are studying the craft, you'll miss. You'll miss those things and you'll rush through from dialogue from shot to shot, cut. You know what I mean? Like medium, as the traditional way they do these conversations over the shoulders and whatnot, and you'll miss out on a lot of that subtext.
Thomas said that is one of the reasons why I'm a huge fan of Shonda Rhimes' brilliant storytelling. You know what? You had me thinking when you said the bus stop because I actually used to tell my students I give a lesson when I taught high school. I'd be like, somebody approaches this character, like we give them a character, boy or girl, and they have a bag, and anything can be in this bag. It could be money, it could be jewelry, it could be letters, it could be whatever. But the objective of the other characters to understand what's in the bag and why it's so important for the other character to hold on to it, right? And
Yep.
that makes them develop the characters, but the conflict.
Yep.
But now thinking about the bus stop, right? I'm sitting here, and y'all hearing it on the Black Filmmakers Lounge. I'm sitting here thinking well, we should host a short film small competition, have fun, let people talk, be like bus stops and park benches. Like make a story that only takes place at a bus stop or a park bench, and that's it.
Yeah. Listen, that will challenge your filmmaking skills, right? Because the story has got to be there, and you can't lean on cutaways and drone shots and all of these different things that we see a ton of that help move a story along. When you have to stay in a place and
Mm-hmm.
stay in the story and make conscious decisions about how long to hold a shot, who this shot should be on, where's that reaction coming from
Right.
to tell the story. And this is another, the speaking through the lens is a hard skill for some people to grasp. Sometimes there are films where you can watch that movie and watch the selection of the cinematographer and how they framed it and how what lens they shot with, and you can understand that story without hearing the dialogue. And that is to me one of the most beautiful things you can see in filmmaking is to have that story conveyed through the shots, through the angles, through the composition. And sometimes I'll turn the volume down and just look at the framing and
Mm-hmm.
see if I can pick out the dynamic of what's going on.
Because here's the other thing too. You get to choose. Like if we need to do it, bus stops or park benches. Like that
I'm with
is
it.
we need to have it. And here's the thing: we hand out what the genre has to be.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Is it a romantic? Is it comedy? Is it horror? Like, is it, is it a thriller? Is it like you have to convey this? And let's say we give you somewhere between 2.5 to 5 minutes. Bam, that's all you get.
That's all you get.
And you have to tell this story within it. And this is the only location you got, and you only get 2 actors.
Woo.
Right?
Flex that filmmaking muscle.
Because like that right there sets a tone for a lot of things. And so I definitely want to put a challenge out because I want to explain this because I know you got people and I know like time, we've been on it forever, and you and I, we talk for life because we're brothers. But right, so hold up. So Bradley James says genre randomly selected based on when you registered to make it interesting. Yeah. Hey, because so here's what I wanted to do, and this is what we're going to do at the Black Filmmakers Lounge. This probably won't happen on Saturday, and we've actually gone longer than we normally do, but we I really wanted to make sure people got a glimpse of producing, and we're going to dive deeper when we have our panel. But the thing is, I am deciding to have a segment called Short Conversations, and where we talk about short films. We screen it and we have a discussion about it. We ask the creator, director, what motivated their short, why they selected certain things and actors, and we dive into the story itself for that short, because we recognize, even though there's a place for short films, people don't realize Amazon takes on short films, Netflix is taking on short films, Tubi is taking on short films. There are Apple has short films. There's a place for short films on platforms now. Quale TV, so not saying there's no place for short films, because there is. It's been growing and growing because they all need content. But for your chance as a filmmaker, director, or actor, or producer to come on and talk about your short and screen your short here, to our audiences of filmmakers and producers and people trying to break in, people who've already in, to have that conversation and do Q&A would be great, because we recognize film festivals, you don't get 15 minutes to really talk about your film. It's like, hey, you screened it, you talk to them for like 5 minutes, get off the stage. But there's so much depth you can present, and people can get to know you as a filmmaker.
It reminds me of like the Saturday matinees, where, when I was a kid, we could go to the movies in the middle of, Saturday, and, we would see a film and then we would talk about that film as kids. And so like early on, I got, used to the idea of the discussion behind the film. And so it's kind of like that for filmmakers here as a community, like to talk to each other, to understand what some of the motivations were. Like I dig it. I think that would be an excellent use of resources and skills to help build our community.
Yeah, and that's because we've been trying it, but the problem is people seem to not push themselves. Like, a lot of us go to film school because it made us make films. Like, you didn't have a choice. Every week you had to turn in something, or you had to write a script every week. There was something you had to do and present. It wouldn't let you escape it and then be like stagnant because you had no options.
I've got friends now that be like, man, you wrote that fast? And I was like, I come from a background where like I didn't have a lot of time to, like, when I sit down to write, I try to block everything else out. I try to, get at least 10, 15 pages in, and then I can eject and do some other things. But when you have I don't have a writing schedule anymore as I used to. I used to get up every morning and write, or stay up late and write. Now I just, per project, I sit, I write on a project till I get to about 10, 15 pages in, or at least to a good concept is worked out.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, because sometimes it's not about the page count, it's about moving the story forward as far as I know the story.
Right.
And so, um, but yeah, you should be writing. Like if you're a filmmaker, even if it's a short. My biggest problem is, for me, and I still struggle with this, I don't like to be on camera. So um,
Yeah.
so vlogs. I've got people asking me to make a horror movie podcast. I've got people asking me to do different things, and I don't want to film myself and be on camera. I'm not a YouTuber. Like that's not my thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always like in the film space, but I also see that it's beneficial if I'm going to build a fan base to do that and get out more. So I'm forever grateful to you guys for letting me be on your podcast and you know to speak on any other podcast so that I can kind of uh, get out there and get my name out there without having to be the one filming filming
Yeah.
because yeah.
I was a person, they used to be like, why don't you act? Why don't you do? Said, nah, it's not what I like to do. I've taken those classes, I did that stuff, but it's not me. I love being behind the scenes. But you know, for me, the podcast part comes out of education. You know,
Yeah.
being a teacher, um, you know, have an MFA in motion picture production and stuff, and trying to say, hey, I see where a lot of people are trying to be as independent filmmakers, and we want to help them because we know that if we really come together and build an infrastructure, we can work outside of the other industry to build this industry and be more beneficial to us, right, in our growth. Because we, when you look at, you know, like Idris Elba is working on a studio um, in Africa now, um, in Zollywood. I'm trying to remember where, but they're supporting him, gave
Mhm.
him land, support him with land, enough land to build a studio, production, all that, and then that's where we have to be considering, like, oh, we need to make
We step our
these
game up,
movies.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah, you look at 50 Cent breaking ground in
New Orleans.
Louisiana.
Yep.
Like you know, so there's nothing stopping us from making these films and dealing with the business aspect so that we can have the money to do these things. I think that the other part of that is like when some people do have access, they forget, or that we get caught up in, I need my money right now to do X, Y, and Z. And so, you know, I'm in full favor of strategic partnerships where we
Mm-hmm.
both can mutually benefit. To me, it's nothing worse than seeing a studio sit empty, and you know you're going to pay the rent regardless. Why can't we enter into an agreement where we make a film and as an equity stakeholder, you know, you're going to get paid on the back end of this.
I'm an in
And
betweener.
I don't think that that should be the first go to. Obviously, if you have a budget,
Mm-hmm.
um, and you should try to get a budget as well. But that does not negate that this still needs to be done. So
Right.
at the end of, well, listen, this is what we have. The paperwork is the paperwork. Like sign the paperwork. You got a percentage of the equity stake. Now you're going to go out here and talk about this film. You're gonna because you want to get paid. So you're going to share it.
But what I'm
Uh,
saying is, I think there should be some upfront cost, right? Like, I'm a type of person, I may not charge you as much if we're doing a deal on the back end where I'm getting paid off gross, first of all.
right.
I ain't doing net, I'm
Not
doing
that.
gross, right? And then, and you're paying a little less up front, but you're getting it done. Um, and we're
I think
helping you get it done.
as a producer or as someone who is coming on with a production company, there's just some costs that we can't avoid,
Mm-hmm.
and so we have to have something up front. But I'm specifically speaking about facilities, black owned facilities, and that yes, you have a cost that goes along with it, right? Bill me and do what we need to do. But at the same time, it shouldn't be such. If you, I know folks that would rather let the place sit empty,
Right.
and I think that that's just the wrong way to go about. Excuse me, to go about it, because ultimately, an empty place is not going to ever make you any money. Whereas you're rolling the dice on someone if you say, "Hey, come and shoot this scene here." And we'll work out a deal on the back end, or whenever you get some money to make it right and give us a percentage. I think that that's a better approach.
Mm-hmm.
Though everybody, you can't do that with everybody, mind you. You need to know that that whoever you're doing it with is, business minded, has their paperwork in order, and is putting the best foot forward. You don't do this with someone who is just starting out, because they're not going to know how to recoup that.
But here's the thing. So with someone starting out, so like, let's just be real. We pay for what we want. That's how I look at life. Like, we pay for the things we value and want. And so if I'm a filmmaker and I know I need locations, right? And there's a facility that offers the locations. Now I can walk in and say, hey, let's do it this way. I'm gonna pay you this. I can pay you this much up front. But can I give you this? Or if as a facility, here's what you can say. Hey, are you a filmmaker that is looking for such a place to do such and such? This is what we offer. But pay a monthly fee of $300, right? Or $250 a month. Now you're locked in for a year at $250, but you can come to this facility and shoot at certain times, and you pay a cheaper cost to rent it out. That is, if you're not a member, then it's going to be this much more.
We have a facility here that does exactly that. And I'm not knocking nobody for doing what they do, but the value of what they're charging for most people is unobtainable.
Okay.
And so, then you put yourself in. I understand that you need to get a certain amount of money. You want to have things rolling, but for the people that are working, the people that you see them, they're making films, they're working. That amount of money is not attainable for them because they're putting it into whatever else they're doing. I think that it should be, if I was running it, one of the things, like, yeah, if you're doing a certain amount of work, I can see that, I'm willing to take the risk with you, because I know that ultimately you're going to make enough money to be able to do the thing, to rent the whole place out, to do the whole thing the way it needs to be done. And I know that for most folks, when they speak with businesses like that, and they aren't willing to work with them for whatever reason, when they get the money, they don't come back. When you get the money, you're like, well, they wouldn't work with me before, so I'm gonna go over here and spend my money elsewhere.
Yeah, but I think those are, and that's why groups and organizations are needed places where you can have those conversations, because sometimes it's been a bad taste put in people's mouths either side, that blocks them from the growth and to the opportunities for that growth, and to see themselves on both sides go further because they limit it. And I tell anybody, look, you don't get something. My dad's always said this since I was a kid. You don't get something for nothing.
No.
And so, my saying on the show, in order to benefit, you got to be beneficial. And
that's it.
And I always look at that. We have to have that mindset. So when I make negotiations, when I negotiate for stuff, I look at how does it benefit the other party. Like, I've got locations simply because we shot a commercial for them.
I was just saying that.
I'm one of the people like, yo, we shoot your commercial. Like, and we use our actors for your commercial. It's like,
commercial might cost you normally. My commercial might cost you 15 bands.
Yeah, so it's beneficial, and that's where I look at stuff. But I know we've been on for a minute. We've been on for a while, so we do what we do. What's the 60-second jewel, my brother?
My 60-second jewel is, if you are a filmmaker and you want to make it a career and treat it as such, learn the business, focus on the craft, and put it all together. It can't just be one or the other. It's got to be both. It's a art and it's a business. So focus on both.
Thank you for sharing. Much appreciate that. I like to quickly thank Thomas Carter for joining us. Even though he checked in last week, he was on the show talking about Bifa, Bifa. I'm sorry, Bifa. I got to get used to that. Black Independent Filmmakers Association. I'd like to thank Bradley James for tuning in. We appreciate you for joining us. We'd like to thank M. Legend Brown for joining us, and anybody else who's joined us. Leonard, I know he said he's out there listening while he was coaching football. He had plugged in and dropping me messages. So everybody, Jacoby for coming on. I know he had stuff to do, so he had to check out. But Dr. Thaddeus W. Jones Jr., my brother.
Man, anytime. Thank you, brother. Thank you for having me.
Coming on, man. And definitely appreciate you and all that you do. And we got it. When the panel comes in September, we're going to have this bigger discussion. I think we're going to have to do the panel on a non-Saturday or something. I don't know. Because it's just enough of us to have the conversation. But I want y'all to really talk. So,
no doubt.
But if you guys have been joining us here at the Black Filmmakers Lounge presents Saturday morning in the industry shop talk, we've been talking shop, producing, movies, dialogue, script writing, how that impacts producing and the producers. And you'll get your money up, get your game up, but what skills you need to learn and focus on. But we appreciate each and every one of you who have joined us today. Make sure you join us next Saturday as we have my brother Derek Hammond will be on, and he'll be talking about distribution 2B as well and producing, because we got a little series producing, but we doing what it is we doing. Support Dr. Jones. Tell him what platforms and what productions you got, my brother.
Oh man, we got Son of a Preacher Man on Tubi. We've got and us on Amazon. We've got Columbia on Tubi, which is a series, crime drama. We've got The Gazelle on Amazon. Shorts TV, Amazon and Shorts TV. We got two other movies get ready to drop here shortly. We've got a film called The Roost that we're finishing up post-production on right now. And we have a film called Pocket Watching that is also going to drop shortly. We're finished post-production on that and in the screen testing phase of that film right now. So we've got quite a few projects left to come out this year. And yeah, I'm on IG, Fanatic Pro, FANATIK Pro, Fanatic Productions, everywhere else.
And if you join the Black Filmmakers Lounge Instagram page and Facebook page and our website, you can find all of everybody who's been on the show through our Instagram, definitely, and their support. And you hit that link and you'll go right to it. And we would like to say thank you for joining the Saturday morning indie industry shop talk. I'm your host, Michael Melvin, with our special guest, Dr. Thaddeus Jones Jr. And we'd like to appreciate each and every one of you for joining us. Like, subscribe, share. Watch the podcast. We're going to be on Spotify. You'll be able to see this video. We're already on YouTube streaming live, and we're on Facebook streaming live. So make sure you're joining us. And remember what the Black Filmmakers Lounge is about, because the Black Filmmakers Lounge is where independent filmmakers, whether they're novice or professionals, come together to gain insight, perspective through education, information, networking, and to discuss industry best practices that will advance the Black interdependent film community. When I say interdependent film community, I mean us come together mutually to make things happen. So like, subscribe, share, enjoy your weekend, go out, shoot something, make something. And if you got a short film, send us a message. If you got a short film you like to talk and discuss about, send us a message, a link, and your information, and we definitely check it out, and we'll get back to you on are real conversations on short conversations. All right. Y'all have a blessed one. Enjoy yourself. Have a good weekend. And we out. Peace. Like, subscribe, share. What's up? Like, subscribe,
Like,
share.
subscribe and share.
That's a shout out to Lewis. All right, we miss y'all. Enjoy. Peace.
Peace.